Chapter 847. Chapter 847, openly targeted him. Philomena slightly raised her eyebrows when she heard the words of the divine sons and goddesses of the Western Divine Realm and Yuan Hua's words. He naturally knew the Dragon King very well. He was the most powerful force in the East and the master of the Dragon Palace. However, Philomena did not put the Dragon King in her eyes. She was the only daughter of the God King of the Nordic Divine Realm. There was only one God King in all the God realms at the moment, and that was the God King of the Scandinavian God Realm, the King of all gods. This was the publicly recognized God King, and his strength was unfathomable. After the burst of spiritual energy, the Scandinavian God Realm became even more powerful, and the Scandinavian God Realm was faintly revered in the entire West. Before the burst of spiritual energy, the number of immortals and gods in the Scandinavian God Realm had reached about 30, far surpassing the number of immortals and gods in the Dragon Palace by about 20. Now, she was even more confident that the Nordic region's strength was not something that the Dragon Palace could match. And her husband's Yuan clan was also a force that could not be underestimated. Now that they had a marriage alliance, they were definitely the most powerful force on Earth. From this wedding, it could be seen that all the Western region's divine domains had arrived. There were even leaders of the divine domains who had brought the gods to congratulate them. They are incomparably arrogant. They are relying on their own strength to not put anyone in their eyes. Yuan Yu said with an embarrassed expression. HMPH, they still think that they are invincible on Earth. If this Dragon King dares to provoke me, I will teach them a lesson. Philomena pouted and snorted coldly. Yuan Hua smiled. This time, the Dragon King has come because of the invitation of our Yuan clan. This Dragon King can be considered as giving face and personally attending. Currently, the Scandinavian Divine Realm and the Yuan clan can be said to be the most powerful forces on Earth. This Dragon King naturally has to come and curry favor with them. That's right. I've heard of the Dragon King's reputation. He's very powerful, but he's still incomparable to the Scandinavian Divine Realm, not to mention the alliance between the two of you. This Dragon King also knows his own limits. He will only provoke those who are stronger than him, and he won't provoke you. Otherwise he wouldn't have come personally today. It's clearly a show of goodwill. Some of the divine sons and goddesses of the divine realm said with some flattery. Philomena raised her head slightly with a proud face. As the daughter of the divine king, even the leader of the divine realm had to treat her as an equal. This was the power of the Nordic divine realm. The auspicious time has come. Young master, young lady, it's time to pay respects. At this moment, a voice came from outside. It was time for the ceremony. The wedding continued in the Chinese style. Compared to the modern style, it was more complicated. At the wedding venue, everyone sat at the tables and watched the bride and groom walk out. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a brilliant light appeared in the sky. There were places in China where the wedding was at noon, and there were places where it was at night. The Yuan clan's tradition was that it was at night. However, even at night, the entire wedding venue was decorated as if it was a white night. The sun had just set when multicolored rays of light appeared in the sky. This is too awesome. Using a fire-attributed infant realm expert to release fireworks. The red flames in the center are even at the immortal god level. Moreover, they even found some experts who possess heaven and earth heavenly flames. What a big spending. As expected of the marriage alliance between the Yuan clan and the Northern European god domain. It's simply too powerful. There are quite a few people from the Northern European god's domain. There are 20 immortals here. Oh my god, this Northern European god's domain is really powerful. Their god king didn't come over, but the god queen did. When the bride and groom walked out, the flames released by the fire attribute experts soared into the sky. The surrounding people discussed in whispers. It's simply too beautiful. Xiao Yu looked at the fireworks in the sky and the beautiful scenes around her with an infatuated look. The wedding scene this time was indeed rather grand. Wang Xian was watching from the side with a smile on his face. There were some people looking over from time to time, but they quickly shifted their gazes over. Heaven and earth parents. One by one the process was completed in half an hour. After the process was completed, it was time for dinner. The bride and groom would come out to toast. Ling Tian and brother, have you learned anything? When you organize a wedding and help me organize a wedding, don't be too shabby. On the table, Xiao Yu, Wang Xian, Ling Xiao, and the rest were sitting at the same table. They were all smiling as they spoke to them. All right. I will definitely let you get married in a glorious manner in the future. Wang Xian smiled as he spoke to Xiao Yu. If I don't get married, brother, you can build me a big house in the Dragon Palace. In the future, I can bring Ling Tian to live in the Dragon Palace. Xiao Yu giggled as she spoke. All right. Wang Xian smiled as he nodded. You can live wherever you want in the future. The bride and groom are here to toast to our family and friends. At this moment, a voice came from the side. There were about 50 tables present. Among them, there were 2 to 3 immortal-level powerhouses at each table. There were no less than 150 immortal-level powerhouses present. According to the rules, the bride and groom came over to give a toast one table at a time. This was a form of wedding etiquette. Thank you for chasing away the sect leader of the Origin Immortal sect. Thank you so much. Haha, congratulations. Congratulations on marrying such a beautiful wife. Come, let me toast to all of you. A polite voice came from the table next to them. Ling Xiao and the others from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect looked over and immediately filled their wine cups. Wang Xian's gaze swept across them. The bride and groom were toasting one by one. Beside them was a friend of the bride, Yu Wenhua. Yu Wenhua was also pouring wine beside them. They're here. Ling Xiao whispered. The Yellow Heaven Immortal sect was not powerful and could not be compared to the Yuan clan, much less the Big Dipper divine territory. Therefore he attached great importance to them. Uncles and uncles, thank you for attending our nephew's wedding. Yu Wenhua walked over and said to them with a smile on his face. Ling Xiao and the rest immediately stood up with smiles on their faces. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Wang Xian also stood up. At the very least, he had to be polite. You are the Dragon King. At this moment, a clear and cold voice was heard. Wang Xian turned around and saw the bride sizing him up coldly. He could see some hostility in her eyes. Yes. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he nodded his head faintly. Oh, I've long heard that the Dragon King is extremely arrogant. I hope that you will give me some face when you meet people from the Western Divine Realm in the future. The corner of Philomena's mouth also curled up slightly as she said faintly. It's not about giving face. It's about fighting for it. It's about strength. Wang Xian said faintly. That's true. Therefore, I don't need to give you any face at all. Philomena nodded with a smile on her face. She turned to Yu Wenhua and said, Let's go. Let's go to the next table. Yu Wenhua was slightly taken aback. However, he quickly smiled and said, Yes, madam. Yu Wenhua revealed a mocking smile on her face. Chapter 848. Chapter 848. A toast to the yellow earth and a toast to death. The smile on Ling Zhao's face froze, and his expression changed drastically. He had never thought that a bride would treat a guest like this. And the person she treated was actually the Dragon King. This was a blatant humiliation. No matter what, a guest was a guest. You had to at least be polite. Even if there was enmity between the two parties, you couldn't show it on this occasion. This was under the gaze of more than 100 immortals and under the gaze of all the powers on earth. This was simply a slap in the face. The surrounding people who were paying attention to this place were also stunned and revealed expressions of shock. This was especially so for the people from the Wuxia Immortal sect. Their faces revealed expressions of shock. Peng, what do you mean? Do you know how to be polite? Do you have any upbringing? When Xiao Yu saw this scene, an angry expression immediately appeared on her face. She heavily placed the wine glass on the table, making a loud noise. This time, everyone at the wedding banquet was attracted by the commotion. What's going on? What happened? All the immortals, gods, and experts who hadn't noticed the situation just now looked at this scene in shock. It seems that Princess Philomena directly ignored the Dragon King when she was toasting. No way. What's going on? How could she not give face to the Dragon King? Could it be that the Nordic celestial realm wants to kill the Dragon King's spirit? I just heard that the Dragon King cut off the arms of 2 divine sons and daughters and a group of celestial realm disciples a few days ago. She's not giving face to the Dragon King? This is a blatant slap in the face. Some of the immortal gods from the Wuxia Immortal sects were shocked when they saw this scene. The immortal gods' disciples who had yet to arrive widened their eyes in shock. They were filled with disbelief. He's not giving the Dragon King any face. Good. Princess Philomena is not giving the Dragon King any face. He's embarrassing himself. Haha, this is so satisfying. This is interesting. Isn't your Dragon King arrogant? You still dare to be arrogant in front of our Princess Philomena? Itch and pitch, now the Dragon King has lost a lot of face. He came to attend the wedding, but the bride didn't give him face at all. Ah, this is great. The western domain of gods and divine sons and daughters watched this scene with smiles on their faces. Especially the gods from the Garden of Eden, ancient Greece and Rome, they all looked at this scene with smiles on their faces. Your Dragon King is extremely arrogant, yet you still dare to be arrogant in front of the daughter of the God King. Is that the Dragon King's sister? HMH, you actually dare to say that Princess Philomena has no upbringing, you're really courting death. Now that the Yuan clan and the Scandinavian gods' domain are connected by marriage, they have become the most powerful force on Earth in a single leap. This Dragon King's sister is still spouting nonsense like an idiot. She really thinks that her brother is invincible, hee. When some people heard Little Feather's words, their faces revealed mocking expressions. Sitting in the center, the gods of the Scandinavian god realm saw this scene and smiled without saying a word. With the God King's love for this princess, so what if he didn't give the Dragon King face? They didn't take the Dragon Palace seriously at all. In the entire world they didn't take it seriously at all. The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan and the surrounding immortals frowned slightly, their faces slightly unsightly. If Philomena won't give face to the Dragon King, then so be it. The Dragon King killed my daughter-in-law. Are we afraid of them? At this moment, a middle-aged man among the immortals of the Yuan clan said coldly. The surrounding immortals of the Yuan clan heard the middle-aged man's words and fell silent. Fairy Hua was the daughter-in-law of this middle-aged immortal god, but she was killed by a disciple of the Dragon Palace. Now that his eldest son had married the daughter of the godly king, the middle-aged man's strength had also reached that of a superior immortal, so his position in the Yuan clan was very high. Moreover, it was Philomena's action this time, so they couldn't stop her. Now they weren't afraid of the Dragon King anymore. If they didn't give him face, they wouldn't give him face. Shut up. Yuanhua heard Xiao Yu's words and stared at her coldly. What's wrong, Yuanhua? Do you still think I'm afraid of you? Xiao Yu saw Yuanhua staring at him coldly and her aura was instantly released. A strong pressure of a mid-level immortal rushed towards Yuanhua. Wang Xian waved his hand and dispersed Xiao Yu's aura. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes as he raised his wine glass indifferently. Oh, this is... Everyone was slightly shocked. When they saw Wang Xian raising his wine glass, they were stunned. Haha, this Dragon King is cowardly. He doesn't dare to be arrogant anymore? An immortal from the Western Celestial Domain laughed out loud. His face was filled with ridicule. It seems that even the Dragon King has no choice but to bow his head. The Northern European Celestial Domain and the Yuan clan are too powerful. They are not something the Dragon Palace can contend against. Yeah, I didn't expect the Dragon King to admit defeat. It's really rare. This time, the Northern European god realm really killed the Dragon King's spirit. I have no choice but to bow my head. The alliance of the two forces is invincible on Earth. The immortals and gods of Wuxia immortal sects sighed slightly when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that the Dragon King would actually admit defeat one day. He drank the wine himself when the other party didn't give him any face. However, it was also true. The Dragon King's participation in this wedding represented his goodwill towards the Yuan clan and the Nordic divine territory. However, the effect was somewhat counterproductive. Hee. Philomena raised her head slightly when she saw Wang Xian raising his wine glass. A hint of an arrogant sneer appeared on her face. Yuanhua was stunned for a moment before a faint smile appeared on his face. The Dragon King had also given in front of them. Pa. However, just when everyone thought that the Dragon King would drink the wine, Wang Xian slowly poured the wine cup over. The wine slowly dripped onto the ground. The wine dripped onto the array formation and made a clicking sound. All of them fell to the ground. Everyone was stunned before a look of shock appeared on their faces. Dragon King, how could he pour wine on the ground? An immortal god looked shocked and stammered. Pour wine on the ground. This was a toast to the dead. This was a toast to the dead. The Dragon King actually poured wine on the ground in front of them during their wedding. This was simply. The wine falling to the ground was not only the custom of the Easterners, the West also knew what this meant. In an instant, many people stood up with embarrassed expressions on their faces. In particular, All the immortals and gods of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan had angry expressions on their faces. The Dragon King poured the wine on the ground. What did this mean? Was he going to kill them? In an instant, the atmosphere at the wedding banquet turned solemn. Philomena and Yu Wenhua's faces turned gloomy immediately. They stared at Wang Xian coldly. Chapter 849. Chapter 849, Funeral 1. On the wedding day he poured wine on the ground in front of the bride and groom. If the bride and groom left without a toast, then the act of pouring wine on the ground was more than an insult. It was a naked humiliation in front of the immortals and gods of all the major forces on earth. And there was a murderous intent in it. One toast to the yellow earth, one toast to death. This was the wine of death. Yu Wenhua and Philomena's faces were extremely gloomy. The Dragon King had done such a humiliating thing during their joyous wedding. It was simply an insult to them. Dragon King, this is too much. When the supreme elder of the Yuan clan saw this scene, his face was unusually embarrassed. He moved and instantly appeared beside Yu Wenhua and Philomena. His face was gloomy as he swept his gaze across the wine on the ground and stared at Wang Xian. Dragon King, are you looking for? Philomena's expression was slightly malevolent. She was the daughter of the celestial king of the Northern European divine realm. Today was her wedding day, and under the gaze of everyone, she was actually humiliated in such a manner. This was not only an insult to her, but also to the entire Northern European divine realm. In the future, when she recalled that such a thing had happened during her wedding, it would definitely be a very uncomfortable thing. It was as if a fish bone was stuck in his throat. But the supreme elder of the Yuan clan waved his hand and blocked what Philomena was about to say. He stared at the Dragon King with a cold expression. Didn't you invite me here because of your attitude? The son and daughter-in-law of the Yuan clan are so uneducated. Did you go overboard with what happened just now? Wang Xian stared coldly at the supreme elder of the Yuan clan. His eyes were filled with coldness as well. Give me an explanation or else. Hiss. Everyone around inhaled a breath of cold air when they saw the Dragon King speaking in such a domineering manner. They stared at the Dragon King's expression. They could see the thick murderous intent in his eyes. He did not conceal it at all. Everyone knew that the Dragon King was furious. The Dragon King did not care about the powers of the Nordic divine realm at all. He also did not care about the strength of the Yuan clan. Today he was invited to participate in this wedding. Others had given him gifts, but he was humiliated in the end. Everyone would be angry. However, they dared not say anything in the face of a powerful force. However, the Dragon King did not tolerate it at all this time. Although the Nordic divine realm was very strong, the Dragon King still had the qualifications. The expression of the Yuan clan's grand elder changed drastically. Everyone had witnessed this matter. It was their fault. He took a deep breath. But Dragon King, you can't go too far. This matter is the fault of their two children. However, today is their wedding after all. Let's take a step back. Give you an explanation? Dragon King, I'm warning you. If you don't give our Scandinavian divine realm an explanation today, you won't have the chance to explain in the future. Just as the supreme elder of the Yuan clan finished his sentence, a cold and arrogant figure was heard. More than 20 people, more than 20 of the gods of the Nordic celestial domain, came to Philomena's side in an instant. They stared at Wang Xian coldly. The other experts of the Western celestial domain moved and followed closely behind. In an instant, 40 to 50 Western gods stared at Wang Xian coldly. When the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan saw them speaking, he frowned slightly. To do such a thing at my son's wedding, the Dragon King really doesn't put us in his eyes. The middle-aged immortal god from the Yuan clan also stared at Wang Xian coldly. Haha, are you threatening me? Wang Xian looked at them and laughed maniacally. So what if I'm threatening you? Dragon King, do you really think that I'm afraid of you? So what if I don't give you face? Philomena stared at Wang Xian with a gloomy face. A cold expression appeared on her face. Since that's the case, let's turn the wedding into a funeral. Wang Xian slowly retracted his smile and stared at Philomena. A red glow flashed in his eyes. Wang Xian's words shocked everyone once again. However, at this moment, everyone saw a flame shoot out from the Dragon King's eyes. Caught off guard, no one expected the Dragon King to dare to attack directly in front of 40 to 50 immortals. In an instant, everyone was shocked. A wedding turned into a funeral? You're courting death. Philomena and Yu Wenhua did not expect Wang Xian to attack so suddenly. Her expression changed drastically and she quickly stretched out her arm. A bracelet on her arm emitted a blue shield of light. However, the moment the flame landed on the shield of light dissipated and the flame landed on Philomena's body. A flame that was not very thick landed on her body. At this moment her expression changed drastically. A look of horror appeared on her face. The flame landed on her body and started burning rapidly. The speed of the flame burning was very fast. Dense wood attribute energy surged from her body in an attempt to extinguish it. However, the flame was never-ending. Never-ending sight. This was one of the 8 divine abilities that Wang Xian obtained after attaining the first transformation of the divine dragon. The divine ability originated from the never-ending wood on the ancestral tree. Never-ending sight, pupil technique. When struck by the never-ending wood, the flame was never-ending and never-ending. Until death. Dragon King Yu. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan revealed an embarrassed expression. He immediately waved his hand to extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. You're courting death. How dare you harm our princess? The gods of the Nordic celestial domain were filled with killing intent when they saw Wang Xian attack directly. A sledgehammer and a knight's sword instantly appeared in the hands of the 2 old men standing in front of them. After tomorrow, all of you will be toasting in my direction as well. Ah. Wang Xian laughed as he looked at the 2 superior immortals who were attacking him. The red glow in his eyes flashed once again as 2 rays of light landed on their bodies. Ah. The 2 of them used the sledgehammer and knight's sword to block the attack. However, their weapons extended from their weapons to their bodies without end. 2 blood-curdling screams rang out. Not good, the flames can't be extinguished. When the 2 high-level immortals attacked, a group of immortals hurriedly released all sorts of energy in an attempt to extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. However, when all sorts of water and earth elemental energy landed on her body, the flames were only slightly suppressed, but it was completely useless. They couldn't be extinguished, not even if a high god attacked. Ah, extinguish them. Extinguish the flames. Philomena's face was filled with terror as she watched her body burn black. She let out a loud scream. Not good. The thunder god and the earth god are also being burned by the flames. When the other gods of the Nordic deity domain and the Yuan clan saw the thunder god and the earth god being burned by the flames, their faces filled with pain as they slapped the flames, their expressions changing dramatically. The 2 high gods were also burned by the flames. Furthermore, they were indestructible. In an instant, the group of gods stared at Wang Xian with fear and vigilance. The rest of them began to rescue him. Chapter 850. Chapter 850, Funeral 2. Ah. Save me, save me. Everything happened in just 3 seconds. The flames burned brighter and brighter. Half of Philomena's body was charred black. A terrified expression appeared on her face as she screamed out loud. The high god of the Nordic region, the god of thunder and the god of the earth were flapping the flames on their bodies with terrified expressions. The 20 immortals stared at Wang Xian vigilantly. In the short exchange of blows, the Dragon King only released 3 flames. In the end, Philomena's entire body was burned, and the 2 high god clones were covered by the flames. The flames are on my body. At this moment, Yu Wenhua's terrified voice rang out. When he was flapping Philomena's flames, some of the flames were on his body, and his arms were burning. No matter what, the flames would never be extinguished. Even if a superior immortal god made a move, it was still useless. What happened at this moment actually made all the human immortals and gods around swallow a mouthful of saliva. The people from the Yuan clan and the Nordic divine territory stared at Wang Xian in horror. No one dared to attack again. Divine ability, this is a divine ability. A surprised voice came from the Xian Yuan clan's supreme elder. He stared with wide eyes at the 4 immortals who had been burned by the flames, and his expression changed drastically. Divine ability. Immortals cultivated battle techniques. If they wanted to increase their strength again, there was only one way, which was to condense the battle technique into a divine ability. All the immortals knew this, but it was extremely difficult to condense a divine ability, and many high-level immortals were unable to find a way. The flame breath is indestructible. Ah. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan had an extremely unsightly expression as he shouted loudly. He gritted his teeth and waved the ancient fan in his hand, directly cutting off Yu Wenhua's arm. The arm fell to the ground and the flames continued to burn. "Save me, save me." Philomena was completely flustered. Her face was extremely pale, and more than half of her body had been burned. If not for the dense water energy surrounding her to suppress the flames, she would probably have died. Beside her, the two high gods of the Nordic domain were rolling on the ground, their eyes filled with fear. "Dragon King, extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. Are you really going to fall into a situation where you will fight to the death with our Yuan clan in the Nordic domain?" Cold sweat appeared on the forehead of the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan. He growled at Wang Xian in a low voice with an embarrassed expression. The wedding turned into a funeral. It's pretty good. Wang Xian looked at this scene indifferently with a smile on his face. This was the first time he had unleashed the endless sight. He was a little dissatisfied with the effect. The flames unleashed by an extraordinary level one could not extinguish it in an instant. This endless sight felt a little weak. However, the ability of not being able to see clearly and not being able to see clearly was fully displayed. It was indestructible. "Dragon King, if you dare to kill Princess Philomena and the god of Thunder Mountain and Earth in our divine territory, our god king will not let you off." A god from the Nordic divine territory stared at Wang Xian and shouted loudly with his eyes that were about to crack. "Do you know that I hate threats the most?" Wang Xian turned his head to look at the god and said with a twinkle in his eyes. The middle-aged god's expression changed drastically. He was afraid that a flame would shoot out from Wang Xian's eyes and burn him directly. "Dragon King, if you can stop now, our Yuan clan would like to apologize to you." The supreme elder of the Yuan clan stared at Wang Xian with a face full of fear and said with an embarrassed expression. No one had expected that the Dragon King would be so powerful. Just the two flames shot out from his eyes could destroy two high gods. Who would dare to go up against such terrifying flames? Even if this was the territory of the Yuan clan, even if there were more than 20 gods in the Nordic divine territory, no one dared to go up. It was too terrifying. One person smiled as he looked at the 40 to 50 gods. Yet the other party did not dare to attack. Instead, he was apologizing respectfully. It was so terrifying. The eyes of the surrounding immortals, who had secretly thought that the Dragon King would admit defeat, were filled with shock. Even the Western gods looked at this scene with embarrassed expressions, especially the mad god of the Garden of Eden's divine realm and the young divine son and goddess of the Roman divine realm. They had gloated and even looked excited. Their expressions had completely disappeared. Apologize? Do I need an apology from the Yuan clan? It's too late. Wang Xian watched the scene indifferently. There was no expression on his face. When the supreme elder of the Yuan clan heard Wang Xian's rejection, his face was extremely gloomy. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "Dragon King, what do you have to do to extinguish the flames? Anyone who offends our Dragon King will die." Wang Xian did not speak. Ao Jian, who was at the side, spoke coldly like a sharp sword that had been unsheathed. After he finished speaking, the faces of all the immortals and deities of the Yuan clan and the Nordic celestial domain changed drastically. No, I beg you, Dragon King. It's my fault. Please let me go." Dressed in a bride's gift, the extremely beautiful Philomena revealed a look of despair on her face. She was in immense pain and most of her body was burnt black. She looked extremely pathetic. She was no longer as beautiful and prideful as before, nor did she have the disdain and ridicule in front of Wang Xian. She knelt on the ground. The immortals and gods around her came to her rescue, but none of them dared to go forward. Yuanhua's arm was covered in flames. He could only cut off his own arm. The two high gods were covered in flames and were screaming in agony. "I came to attend your wedding, but you didn't give me any face. You even said that you have the ability and qualifications. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability and qualifications. Let's go." Wang Xian said indifferently and turned around to walk out. However, when he saw a glass of wine on the table, he paused. "The last toast is to the yellow earth and death. This toast is to all of you." Wang Xian picked up the wine glass and threw it behind him gently. The wine glass formed a line and landed in front of Philomena and the two high gods. "Cheers to all of you." Boom. The Yuan clan and the gods from the Nordic celestial domain revealed furious expressions. A terrifying aura shot up into the sky. The aura of the 40 to 50 gods caused the entire world to change drastically. Even the movement techniques under their feet were slowly cracking. However, Wang Xian did not bother with them. He slowly paced and flew into the distance at an average speed. Xiao Yu, Feng Lingtian, Ling Xiao and the rest followed closely behind. They left in a carefree manner. From the beginning to the end, the immortals from the Yuan clan and the Nordic celestial domain did not dare to make a move. The people from the Western celestial domain did not dare to make a move either. 2 flames had killed 2 high gods. Who would still dare to make a move? No, I was wrong. Please let me go. Give me a chance. Philomena's screams continued to ring out, causing the Yuan clan and the gods of the Scandinavian gods domain to have extremely unsightly expressions. No matter what method they used, they could not extinguish the wisps of flames that were not very lush. They could only watch as Philomena was burned to ashes. They watched as the 2 gods stopped screaming and lay there motionless. This was truly a wedding turning into a funeral. Chapter 851. Chapter 851, Funeral 3. No. The sound of Yuan Hua wailing could be heard from the wedding venue. Everyone from the Yuan clan trembled slightly. Their faces were filled with humiliation and anger. The gods of the Northern European god domain had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. The princess of their god domain had been directly killed. She had been burned to death in front of them. However, they had not been able to do anything about it. They didn't even have the chance to take revenge. Around them, the immortal sects from the east and the gods from the west watched this scene with complicated expressions on their faces. It was the most eye-catching wedding on earth. However, today it had turned into this scene. Just as the Dragon King had said, the wedding had turned into a funeral. Everyone from the Yuan clan, we are sorry for your loss. We will leave first. The members of the Xinyuan clan cupped their hands and left immediately. The members of the other immortal sects also left immediately. On the mountain peaks around the wedding in Xinyuan City, the lights were still bright. It was an ordinary wedding. However, the people outside and in the city didn't know that this wedding had turned into a funeral. Who would have thought that this wedding of the century would actually turn out like this? The Dragon King actually dared to directly kill the daughter of the Scandinavian deity king, killing 2 high gods. In the future, the 2 powers will probably fight to the death. Who would have thought that the Dragon King would actually be so terrifying? A high god was easily killed in front of him. This is too terrifying. While the others are improving, the Dragon King is also improving at a terrifying rate. Some of the immortal gods who had left were sighing as they conversed. The strength that the Dragon King had displayed today had truly shocked everyone. The 40 to 50 immortal gods of the Yuan clan's Nordic region did not dare to make a move. They watched as the Dragon King left and watched as the princess of the Nordic region was burned to death. However, one could imagine that the Nordic region and the Dragon Palace had already become arch-enemies. What would happen if the 2 most powerful forces of the East and West clashed? It's also that Philomena is courting death. After all, the Dragon King is also the most powerful force of the East. He came to your wedding personally and gave you a congratulatory gift. In the end, you didn't give the Dragon King any face and humiliated the Dragon King in front of so many people. Aren't you courting death? Maybe he thinks that he has a father who is a godly king, so he dares to look down on everyone. He is indeed rude. He didn't give any face to the guests at his own wedding. No wonder the Dragon King directly showed killing intent and killed him on the spot. If he doesn't seek death, he won't die. Do you really think that a top-tier powerhouse, the master of a powerful force, would let a rich second-generation woman like you humiliate him? You are courting death. Some people were shocked by the Dragon King's faction, but there were still people who were disdainful of Philomena's actions. They thought that they had a powerful background, but they actually dared to disrespect others. Now that they had met the Dragon King, the result was that they were killed. Moreover, they died very miserably. The Yuan clan's people also thought that they had a marriage alliance with the Scandinavian divine realm, so they could disregard the Dragon King. In the end, this was the fate of a group of people seeking death. Not long after the lively and festive Xinyuan city began to boil, the news of Philomena's death spread, and the entire city was shocked. Very quickly, this matter spread to the Jianghu website. Today's Jianghu website, the posts were all about the immortal sect's congratulations on the marriage between Yuan clan's Yuan Hua and the Scandinavian god's domain's Philomena. As well as the discussions of the immortal sect's experts on this wedding. When the news of Philomena's death spread to Jianghu website, it shocked the entire internet. When Philomena toasted, she did not give face to the Dragon King in front of everyone. The Yuan clan did not make any apologies, and the Dragon King killed her on the spot. When this news came out, the entire Jianghu was shocked. The Dragon King is awesome. Damn it, this Philomena is really courting death. The Dragon King personally went to attend her wedding and gave her a congratulatory gift, but she actually did not give face to the Dragon King. Well done. The best death-courting expert of the year, the daughter of the Scandinavian god realm's god king, Philomena. Well done. Treating a guest like this, there is nothing wrong with the Dragon King killing her. This Yuan clan is too arrogant. They think that they cannot give face to the Dragon King just because they are in the Scandinavian god realm. Now that's great, this is really interesting. Haha, this is really interesting. The Yuan clan invited the Dragon King to attend the wedding, but the bride insulted him directly. The Yuan clan did not react at all. Well done. The disciples of the immortal sects on the Jianghu website all replied in unison. They all said that Philomena was courting death and the Yuan clan was too arrogant. That was why, if not for all of this, the Dragon King would not have made a move. In an instant, the originally lively Jianghu website became even more lively and even continued until the wee hours of the morning. Boom, boom. However, at the wee hours of the morning, an earth-shattering sound came from the direction of the Yuan clan. The earth seemed to be trembling. Dragon King, I, the king of Northern Europe, the king of all gods, Okuden, will definitely exterminate you in 3 days. All members of the Dragon Palace will not be spared. Even if the heavens and the earth enter, you will not be able to escape this calamity. An angry roar resounded throughout the east. The voice shook the sky. All the people who had fallen asleep were awakened and listened to the voice with shock on their faces. King of Northern Europe. King of all gods. King of God Okuden. The strongest person in the West and the most powerful god in the West. How strong could an existence that could be recognized as the strongest by everyone be? Everyone had shocked expressions on their faces. No one expected that this godly monarch would rush over so quickly. Yuan clan, you bunch of damned fellows. At this moment, in the Yuan clan's position, a sun-like disk was suspended in the dark night sky 10,000 meters in the sky, causing the entire area to be lit up. An elder sat on a huge divine seat, and 2 black crows that were 3 meters in size stood on the edge of the divine seat. There was a golden disk that was 1 meter long above the old man's head. The disk was emitting a white light. 4 huge Pegasus with wings pulled the throne. Each Pegasus was emitting a dazzling light. They were at the level of immortals and gods. The old man was also emitting a white light. He had endless majesty. The king of all gods was worthy of his name. God King Okuden, please calm down. We Yuan. Shut up. In the sky, the Yuan clan's supreme elder and a group of Yuan clan immortals greeted the arrival of the divine king in fear and trepidation. Behind the divine king stood a group of gods exuding a terrifying aura. All of them were clad in battle armor and were filled with dignity. The group of about 5,000 people looked like a powerful battle team that had come from ancient times. The Yuan clan's supreme elder bent down and was about to finish his sentence when divine King Okuden extended a finger. A white beam of light instantly shot towards him. The Yuan clan's grand supreme elder's expression was horrified as he hurriedly blocked it. Ping. However, a terrifying force landed on his body, causing him to spit out blood. Instantly, he was heavily injured as he fell towards the ground. The might of a divine king shook the world. Chapter 852. Chapter 852, Funeral 4. Hiss. The location of the Yuan clan was not very far from Xinyuan City. At night, when a sun-like object rose, when that earth-shaking sound rang out, everyone in Xinyuan ancient city woke up. Many immortal gods and disciples of the immortal sects who had not left because the sky was already dark tonight immediately flew out of the room when they heard this sound and looked towards the location of the sound. When they flew out, they saw a shocking scene. The Yuan clan's strongest expert, the Yuan clan's supreme elder, was actually knocked down from the void by the finger of the elder who was sitting on the divine throne and emitting divine light. He did not have the slightest ability to resist. The Yuan clan's supreme elder, who was currently the strongest expert in the east, fell heavily into the distance. The power of a single finger. Just the power of a single finger. Everyone's faces were filled with shock as they watched this scene. The grand elder of the Yuan clan had actually been defeated with a single finger. In fact, they felt that if the deity king hadn't held back, he would have been killed. This made them think of the day when the Dragon King's eyes had shot out 2 flames, and in the end he had killed 2 high gods. How terrifying. He knocked down the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan with a single finger. Who is stronger, the Dragon King or him? This is a true God. His divine might is vast and mighty, and his divine light shines through the heavens and earth. Those gods of the Western divine realm are simply too insignificant compared to this old man. Divine King, is this how terrifying a divine king is? As expected of the King of Gods, the most powerful expert of the West. Seeing it with their own eyes, everyone felt their insignificance. This godly king was too powerful. Godly King versus Dragon King. Dragon King has finally met his true enemy. Everyone sighed in their hearts. After the Dragon King's performance today, they thought that the Dragon King was the strongest existence. However, compared to the Godly King, it was hard to say who was stronger. The Dragon King has killed my Yuan clan's daughter-in-law. Today, my Yuan clan swears that we will definitely destroy the Dragon King. Otherwise, my Yuan clan will be destroyed. After about half an hour of silence in the night, another roar sounded from the sky and spread throughout China. The two voices represented the complete alliance between the Yuan clan and the Nordic divine realm. They were determined to completely destroy the Dragon King. This news caused the silent night to boil. It became a sleepless night. Analyzing the Dragon King's forces before the spiritual energy recovers, the Dragon Palace has 18 immortal gods, a group of infant realm and half-step immortal god powerhouses. According to their overall strength, the Dragon Palace has at least 30 immortal gods. 30 might be a little less. It should be between 40 to 50. 50 is the most. As for the Yuan clan and the Northern European divine realm, the Yuan clan has 25 immortals, and the Northern European divine realm has at least 60 immortals. This time, the divine King Okudan led all the experts of the divine realm out. When the two sides join forces, there are no less than 85 immortal god experts. This is a huge crisis for the Dragon King. Although the Dragon King is very strong, the divine king is not weak either. He defeated the Yuan clan's supreme elder with one finger. His strength is definitely not lower than the Dragon King. The divine king under his banner is stronger. This is really a huge crisis for the Dragon King. Last time, the Dragon King mobilized the Dragon Palace's forces to destroy the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal sect. Will there be other forces this time? It's obviously the alliance between the Nordic divine realm's divine king and the Yuan clan that is stronger. After all, it's the alliance of two major forces. There's also the divine king, a terrifying expert. The Dragon King is doomed. Late at night, the entire Jianghu internet was bustling with activity. Everyone was talking about the Yuan clan and the Norse celestial realm's declaration of war against the Dragon King. The daughter of the divine king was killed at the wedding. The two major forces would not let the Dragon King off. This time it was another war of the century. Even after this war, it would decide the division of the forces on Earth. More people were optimistic about the forces of the divine king and the Yuan clan. Now almost everyone was a warrior. In the past, many ordinary people had only heard of the Dragon King's deeds and had never seen him in person. However, the King of Gods was different. Ever since the spiritual energy was released, the King of all gods had been well known throughout the entire earth. He was known as a true god. When the sky lit up, Wang Xian stretched lazily from his room on the floating island and came to the living room. "Brother, did you hear the voice yesterday?" Xiao Yu and Feng Lingtian were sitting in the living room. Ling Xiao did not leave immediately either. The incident yesterday had a huge impact on them. Killing the daughter of the godly monarch on the spot and making an enemy out of the strongest alliance on earth made him a little apprehensive and worried. Now, the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect and the Dragon Palace could be considered as in-laws. I heard it. How could I not hear it? Wang Xian walked to the table nonchalantly. Xiao Yu immediately ran to the kitchen to bring some breakfast over. Brother, they are too arrogant. They even wanted to destroy you. Ichimpich, they are courting death. Xiao Yu said angrily. She had been angry for a long time about what happened to Philomena the day before. They should be holding a funeral now. When they are done with the coffin, we will go over and cover it for them. Wang Xian smiled gently. Since the other party had already wanted to destroy him, Wang Xian would naturally not sit still. He liked to take the initiative to attack. A wedding turned into a funeral. A funeral required a coffin. If they wanted to kill him 3 days later, he would go ahead and place them in the coffin. Perfect. In just a few days they would go from the joy of life to great sorrow and finally walk into the grave. It was perfect. Dragon King, Are you taking the initiative to attack? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat when he heard his words. There are only 6 immortals in our Ling Xiao immortal sect who can attack. There's no need. Wang Xian waved his hand. My dragon palace can handle it. The godly king is very powerful. The Northern European divine territory and the Yuan clan are also very powerful. Ling Xiao frowned and reminded him. Even though he saw how confident Wang Xian was, Ling Xiao was not sure that the Dragon Palace would be a match for the two powerful forces. Not only him but everyone on Earth did not believe that the Dragon King would win. On the Jianghu website, everyone said that this would be the greatest crisis for the Dragon King and that it was very likely that he would fall. Don't worry. Wang Xian smiled faintly. Earlier on he looked at the Jianghu website and saw the analysis thread. The strength of the Norse celestial domain and the Yuan clan's analysis was very similar. However, it was the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian smiled lightly. Currently, there were 280 immortal-level powerhouses in the Dragon Palace. Just a small number of 80 plus a group of Draconids would be enough to deal with the two major forces. As for the Godly King, I wonder if he has reached the Transcendence Realm. It would be interesting if he has reached it. If he hasn't, then As for the information about the Godly King versus the Dragon King on the Jianghu website, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He didn't know if he had the qualifications. Chapter 853. Chapter 853, Dragon King vs. Godly King 1. The wedding that shocked the entire world ended in a way that shocked everyone. Soon after, the wedding turned into a funeral. The death of the Godly King's daughter, even if it was to be buried in the Nordic divine realm. The entire Yuan clan was still in silence. The festive red color was completely removed and replaced with white. Although it was said that turning from a joyous event to a loss would cause all the immortal sect experts in the Jianghu to laugh at them, it was still better to die. Moreover, the one who died was the daughter of the Scandinavian god king. How could the Yuan clan still dare to care about their reputation? Now they only hoped that the Scandinavian god king would not vent his anger on them and take revenge on the Dragon King. No matter what, all of this was because of the Dragon King. The 5,000 experts of the Nordic divine realm are all gathered in the Yuan clan. In 2 days they will take the Dragon King's head to pay tribute to the death of the Nordic princess. I heard that the Yuan clan used level 13 materials to build a coffin for Philomena. How extravagant. No one knows the exact location of the Dragon Palace. If the Dragon King is hiding, the Nordic divine realm might not be able to find him. The Dragon King is currently said to be on the floating island in the river city Bohai Sea. I wonder how the Dragon King will deal with him. The Yuan clan has mobilized all their forces to find the Dragon Palace's address. They are preparing to attack the Dragon Palace and destroy all the members of the Dragon Palace. Time slowly passed. The entire Jianghu was in an uproar. They were paying close attention to every piece of information about the Dragon King and the Yuan clan. Soon after, the next day, a shocking piece of news broke out in the Yuan clan. There are a total of 50 immortal gods in the Nordic divine realm, and 28 immortal gods in the Yuan clan. When this news came out, everyone was dumbfounded. 50 immortal gods, and there were actually 50 immortal gods in the Nordic divine realm. This terrifying power was simply invincible in the world. 50 immortals and 28 from the Yuan clan made a total of 78. How was the Dragon King going to deal with such a terrifying power? The Godly King has announced our power. If the Dragon King finds out that we are hiding, it will be troublesome. In the Yuan clan, the Grand Elder sat below the Godly King. He frowned and said respectfully, even if our announced strength is much less than what we actually have, our power can still be said to be invincible on Earth. Invincible? That's hard to say. The elder sitting in the main seat touched a small crow on his arm with a cold expression on his face. Elder Yuan, we can't underestimate this Dragon King. According to the information we received in the past 2 days, this Dragon Palace's strength is not weak. The number of immortals and deities it has will definitely not be less than 50. Divine King O'Curtain didn't answer him. A white-haired elder who was leaning on the crow's cane beside him said faintly. A year ago, the Dragon Palace had 18 immortals before the recovery of spiritual energy began. The number of infant realm and half-step immortal realm experts had reached 70 to 80. This is just the strength that was revealed. If he still has hidden his strength, he might be even stronger. Moreover, according to the information we've received, The strength of the infant realm and half-step immortal realm experts in the Dragon Palace far exceeds those of the same level. A year's recovery of spiritual energy is enough for many infant realm experts to break through to immortal realm. The experts of the Dragon Palace also have a very high possibility. As the white-haired old man spoke, he touched the walking stick in his hand. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan revealed a thoughtful expression. The Dragon Palace didn't have any ordinary disciples. The weakest ones were all in the infant realm. During this 1-year period, the spiritual essence had recovered. If the infant realm experts had a great opportunity and had enough medicinal pills, they could also break through to the immortal realm. In addition, the Dragon Palace monopolized the medicinal pills in the entire Jianghu, so the resources were absolutely terrifying. That's right. Suddenly, he remembered that the Dragon Palace had once destroyed the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. With the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect's strength back then, they were completely comparable to the Yuan clan. Moreover, the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect definitely had more resources than them in terms of spiritual herbs and medicinal pills. If the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect still existed, they would have at least 30 immortal gods. Now that the resources were given to the Dragon Palace would be able to create at least 20 immortals. In addition to the previous ones and the monopolized medicinal pills, the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace might really reach 70 to 80. If the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace really reaches 70 to 80, I really can't believe it. The immortal gods of the Yuan clan suddenly sighed. If it weren't for the Nordic divine realm, they absolutely wouldn't dare to provoke the Dragon King. According to all the information in the past, there's a very big possibility. The white-haired elder's eyes sparkled as he spoke with wisdom. Hiss, if that's the case, even if we want to destroy the Dragon Palace, the possibility isn't very high. On the contrary, both sides will suffer heavy losses. The Yuan clan's supreme elder said with a solemn expression. If the Dragon King really has such a powerful force according to his personality, what will he do? The white-haired elder continued to speak indifferently. If it's the Dragon King, will he? The Yuan clan's immortals and deities frowned slightly. Immediately after, they said, if it's the Dragon King, he will lead the immortals and deities of the Dragon Palace. Before we make a move, they will come to find us. This was the case with the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. That's right. It seems that you are not that stupid. The white-haired elder closed his eyes slightly. The immortals and gods of the Yuan clan looked somewhat embarrassed. Wise man, godly king, if the strength of the Dragon Palace is really so terrifying, we can't deal with them, can we? Reporting, Grand Elder, a group of experts suddenly broke in. Suddenly at this moment, an elder of the Yuan clan rushed in with a panicked look and said in horror. What? Did the Dragon King bring people here? The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan stood up abruptly with a shocked look on his face. Let them in. The godly king who was sitting at the front said. Godly king. Godly king. Godly king. As soon as they finished speaking, a group of people walked toward the hall in the mountain peak. There were about 60 people in total. The leader on the left was a burly old man with a beard and a huge war hammer in his hand. The one on the right was an old man wearing a black robe, completely hiding himself in the robe. He wore a mask and only one eye was revealed. In the middle was an old man wearing a divine crown and holding a divine staff. Each of the old men exuded a terrifying dignity. At this moment they bowed respectfully to the God King. 15 immortals in the Garden of Eden's divine territory. 20 immortals in the ancient Greek divine territory. 25 gods from the Rome. Serve the God King, kill the other worldlings, get rid of the villains and avenge Princess Philomena. The 60 powerful gods called out respectfully, and their voices resounded throughout the hall. Chapter 854. Chapter 854, Dragon King vs. Godly King 2. Here they come. Ah, good. This time, regardless of whether the Dragon Palace has 50 immortals or 100 immortals, they must die. After the Dragon Palace is destroyed, anyone on earth who dares to resist us will all die. Godly King Okuden's eyes shone with a bright light as he slowly stood up. This time, I will let everyone on earth know the consequences of offending me, Okuden. If you dare to kill my daughter, I will tear her into pieces and make everyone in the world despise him. Divine King, after this battle, everyone will have to submit to my Nordic divine realm. The white-bearded old man quickly stood up. In the future you will not only be the king of all gods, but also the king of all immortals. Wise man, I hope that as you have analyzed, this Dragon King will have a decent strength and will be able to come over tomorrow. Otherwise there will be no meaning at all. Divine King Okurdan waved his hand and said indifferently. 80% confidence. The white-bearded old man said with confidence. Around them, the immortals of the Yuan clan sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with shock as they watched. As expected of the strongest northern European divine realm in the west. As expected of the godly monarch. The Yuan clan Grand Elder's face was filled with astonishment. His eyes flickered as he looked at the white-bearded elder. The white-bearded elder was called the Wise Man. He was the wise man of the northern European divine realm. He had always been the most important right-hand man of the auxiliary godly monarch. This wise man in front of him had assisted 3 generations of godly monarchs in total. His lifespan had already reached around 450 years old. This time, it was his intention to pass on the power of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan. In fact, the power that was passed out had 10 immortal gods hidden in the Nordic divine realm. They had a total of 60 immortal gods. However, that was not all. Seeing the 60 immortal gods that came over again, he was amazed. This time, even if the Dragon King had 3 heads and 6 arms, he was doomed. Thinking of this, a cold expression appeared on his face. Prepare everything and wait for the arrival of the Dragon King. The white-bearded old man sat on the chair and flipped through the information in his hands. His face was filled with confidence. 78 immortals, over 4,000 experts in the infant and dance stages. This is a good opportunity for the Dragon Palace to train their soldiers. In Jianghu City, Wang Xian stood at the top of the floating island villa. He smiled as he read the information sent over by the demonic Azure Dragon. Dragon King Prime Minister Gue is bringing a group of civil officials from the Dragon Palace over. In the past it was all talk on paper. This is a real drill. Ao Jian said to Wang Xian from the side. Wang Xian nodded. Good. It's rare to have an opponent. Use it well. Otherwise it would be a waste. Wang Xian did not put the king of the Nordic celestial realm and the Yuan clan in his eyes. In his opinion, they were a good training ground for the Dragon Palace. From the beginning to the end, the Dragon Palace did not encounter any opponents. This time they passed the test. 78 immortals and 4,000 to 5,000 infant stage powerhouses at the dance stage barely passed the test. Tomorrow morning, we don't need the Nordic celestial realm and the Yuan clan to look for us. Let's go look for them. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he said confidently. It's the Dragon King. Ao Jian nodded respectfully. Wang Xian stood at the top of the villa with an indifferent expression as he looked ahead with a smile. However, he didn't know that Wang Xian's thoughts had already been predicted by others. Meanwhile, the Norse celestial domain and the Yuan clan were already waiting for his arrival. The next morning, today was 3 days later. It was the Nordic Divine King's day of revenge for the Yuan clan. Today the entire world, from the immortal sects to the warriors who had just cultivated for a year, was paying attention to this battle. The real battle of the century. Hello everyone. This is the Wuxia Warriors Live broadcast platform. We are currently in Jianghu City. Everyone please look into the distance. Look, that is the Dragon King's floating island. It is said that the Dragon King is currently on the floating island. We can connect to another streamer. He is currently in the Yuan clan. Today we will be live broadcasting this battle. As time passed, the television stations of the past had also undergone changes. There were many more martial artists live broadcast platforms and teaching platforms. The Wuxia Martial Artists Live broadcast platform was the largest platform. Now, it was even more important to carry out a live broadcast of this battle that all humans were paying attention to. At this time, hundreds of millions of people had already gathered on the platform to watch. Besides those watching on the live broadcast platform, the real powerhouses such as the Immortal God level, Half-Step Immortal God level and Infant Realm level, were all located not far away from Jianghu City and the Yuan clan. They were ready to watch this terrifying battle with their own eyes. The power of this battle would far surpass the battle between the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine and Immortal Sect and the Dragon King. There's no movement on the Dragon King's floating island. We can also see that there's no movement on the Yuan clan's position. It's 8:30 in the morning, so there should be some movement soon. Everyone wait patiently. Everyone, Do you think that the Nordic Divine Realm and the Yuan clan will win this battle, or the Dragon King's Dragon Palace? At 8:30 in the morning, both the floating island and the Yuan clan were silent, like the calm before a storm. As soon as the streamer asked this question, a voting area appeared. In an instant, the number of votes reached over 1 million. Among them, 99% of them thought that the Norse Celestial Realm and the Yuan clan would win, and the Dragon King Dragon Palace would be destroyed. 88 immortals versus members of the Dragon Palace, the Dragon King versus the Godly King. The members of the Dragon Palace will probably be completely defeated. Unless the Dragon King defeats the Godly King, the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King will be destroyed. That's right. There's no movement on the floating island. Has the Dragon King already escaped? If he really escaped, it would completely prove that the Dragon King is not as good as the Godly King. In the void around Jianghu City, the immortals from the immortal sects were hiding in the white clouds. They looked down and whispered. Similarly, there were many immortal gods from the Yuan clan hiding in the void around River City. There was no movement from either side. It seems that everyone thinks that the Nordic god's domain and the Yuan clan will win. I think so too. I'm afraid that they will really have to slay the dragon this time. 88 immortal gods. This is too terrifying. The live streamer flew in the sky on his flying sword as he spoke to the audience. Oh my God, what's going on? At this moment, the streamer suddenly widened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Oh my God, the power of the Dragon King. The power of the Dragon King. Boom, boom. While the streamer was in shock, terrifying creatures suddenly flew out from the bottom of the ocean below the floating island. Among the 9 flood dragons, there was a throne that the Dragon King was sitting on. At the back, there was a beautiful woman standing beside the Dragon King with a fan and a pair of wings behind her. On the other side, an old man with a turtle shell glanced around with a wise gaze. Finally, a group of creatures with a terrifying aura. Chapter 855. Chapter 855. Dragon King vs. Godly King 3. Behind the Dragon King there were more than 3 groups of creatures. There was a type of demon monkey, a demon monkey that emitted demonic aura. Each of its body was covered in black scales. The leading few held golden cudgels in their hands, exuding the might of immortals and gods. There were more than 1,000 of these demon monkeys, and their demonic flames were monstrous, making one's heart palpitate. The other type of creatures were creatures that emitted lightning. They were like shrimps. The leader of the group was a dozen or so creatures. One of them had an arm that was like a war hammer, and the other had an arm that was like a lightning spear. Their bodies flickered with lightning. There were a total of around 200 of them. They were extremely terrifying. In the middle was a group of humans. They held golden longswords in their hands. They were extremely cold like machines. Their bodies emitted terrifying sword rays. There were about 150 swordsmen in this group. Other than these 3 groups of humans and creatures, there were also a few very special and even terrifying things. A middle-aged man with a few heads and 9 arms. Every face of the middle-aged man was extremely thin and pale. His triangular eyes revealed a sinister and terrifying look. His body was not big, but he was extremely eye-catching behind the Dragon King. No creature dared to approach him. 3 meters away from the middle-aged man, there was a strange creature. This creature was like a spider. He had a hairy head and 8 arms. His left and right arms were like swords and his right hands were like rapiers. He was very strange and looked very terrifying. There were a total of 10 such creatures. Oh my God, there are about 70 immortals and deities. There are actually 70 of them. The streamer and all the immortal sects and experts around him widened their eyes in shock when they saw this scene. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace had already led 70 immortals and deities out before there was any movement from the Yuan clan. Looking in that direction, they were flying toward the Yuan clan. What were they going to do? Attack. Just like the last time, the Dragon King wanted to take the initiative to attack. How could it be? How could the Dragon Palace have so many immortal and deity experts? And did you see that many of them are other creatures? The Dragon Palace, the Dragon Palace. Could it be that the Dragon King's Dragon Palace is built in the ocean and his subordinates are also creatures of the ocean? The host widened his eyes and roared in shock. It was really too shocking. Just now they were still discussing and voting about who would lose this battle. In the end, 99% of the people thought that the Dragon Palace would be destroyed. However, in less than 10 minutes, the Dragon King suddenly led a group of terrifying immortal god creatures to attack and fly towards the Yuan clan. There is also a terrifying invisible creature in the Dragon Palace. There are definitely many of those creatures. In other words, the number of immortal gods in the Dragon Palace is even more than that of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan. The surrounding immortal gods sucked in a breath of cold air. The power of the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was too terrifying. It made everyone feel incredulous. Too powerful, too powerful. I thought the Dragon King would lose. Now, it seems that the one who will lose is probably the godly king. A big battle, a real big battle. There will be nearly 200 immortals fighting today. Oh my god. Whether it was the surrounding immortals or the people who saw this scene through the live broadcast, their faces were filled with shock. With the reversal of the situation, the immortals in the Dragon Palace were no less than the Norse celestial domain and the Yuan clan. In fact, they were even stronger and more bizarre. There are 20 immortals hiding in the surrounding 50 kilometers. Prime Minister Gue followed the Dragon King and walked in the air. He looked at the turtle shell in his hand and whispered. Behind him there were also turtles. Each turtle shell's eyes were filled with wisdom and wisdom. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surroundings and paid no attention to them. This time, 100 immortal-level members of the Dragon Palace were dispatched. It was obvious that there were 70 members of the Dragon Palace and 30 immortal-level demons hiding around them. Other than the immortal-level members, there were also 50 nascent realm and half-step immortal-level members. Almost one-third of the immortal-level members of the Dragon Palace had arrived, but more than half of the powers below the immortal level had arrived. There were not many members in the Dragon Palace to begin with. In fact, among the group of creatures in the Dragon Palace, Tang Yinshen and 5 dolphins at the level of immortals and deities had also come along. Since it was a drill, they would display the strongest battle formation of the Dragon Palace. The 9 dragons rode on their steeds and flew rapidly towards the Yuan clan. Among this group of creatures, there were only a few hundred of them at the dance stage. The rest were all at the infant stage. Although there were only 2,000 of them, their strength was definitely terrifying enough. Wang Xian did not hide anything as he proceeded forward. When he passed by a bustling city, everyone looked at this scene with shock on their faces. On the Jianghu website and the live broadcast platform, there was even a falling out. It was as though there was an earthquake of over 10 levels. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon King would be annihilated, the Dragon King once again launched a desperate counterattack. This is the true strength of the Dragon Palace. Invincible. Just like the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, and Immortal Sect, the Dragon King directly sent people to kill him. Haha, this is interesting. If the Dragon King dares to kill him, he has the confidence to kill the godly king. That's awesome. When everyone received the news, they were discussing in shock. The Dragon King had given them too many surprises. Once again, when everyone thought that the Dragon King would be completely defeated, the Dragon King shocked the world again. He led the powerful and terrifying members of the Dragon Palace to fly in the direction of the Yuan clan. Their flying speed was very fast. In less than half an hour, they were already within 50 kilometers of the Yuan clan. At this moment, Prime Minister Gue, who was holding the turtle shell in his hand, let out a surprised cry. He stared at his own turtle shell and moved slightly. Dragon King, there are a total of 200 immortals within 50 kilometers. The number of immortals is somewhat unexpected. Prime Minister Gue raised his head and spoke to Wang Xian, who was walking forward. 200 celestials? Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. A hint of doubt appeared on his face. Including those who are hiding in the surroundings, there shouldn't be 200 of them. That's too many. It should be? Prime Minister Gui's eyes flickered as he looked at the many pairs of eyes in the void. A hint of a smile appeared on his face as he said, I'll get the big blue belt celestial god to rush over. It won't take more than 5 minutes. All right, slow down. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. This is really interesting. I told you that there's something strange about the Yuan clan. 3 days have passed and they still haven't come out. Furthermore, they are deliberately releasing their strength. Ah, this is really interesting. He laughed and ordered the 9 dragons to slow down. They were slowly approaching the Yuan clan. They're coming, the Dragon King is coming. They're still coming in a domineering manner. The aura of the members of the Dragon Palace is so terrifying that it far surpasses that of humans. Each and every one of them is extremely strange. Are they trying to destroy the Northern European Divine Realm and the Yuan clan? The immortal god powerhouses and streamers who had gathered around and had specialized live streams revealed shocked expressions when they saw the arrival of the Dragon King. The 9 flood dragons gave off a terrifying aura as they slowly arrived at the Yuan clan's territory and stopped in the air. There were 70 immortal-level creatures. Their savage, demonic, and cold aura far surpassed that of the human immortals of the same level. The Dragon King and the rest stopped there as if they were powerful existences from the bottom of the sea. Haha, I knew you would bring people here. It's as I expected. Wang Xian didn't say anything as he looked ahead quietly. At this moment, a loud laughter was heard. On a mountain peak of the Yuan clan, a wise white-haired elder stood on the mountain peak and laughed heartily. This loud laughter shocked everyone once again. Chapter 856. Chapter 856, Dragon King vs. Godly King 4. What's going on? What's going on? This is a god from the Nordic divine realm. Why is he so happy? What did he expect? Could it be that the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan have already made preparations? Upon hearing this loud laughter, the experts who were hiding around and waiting to watch the battle, as well as everyone who was watching the live broadcast, revealed shocked expressions once again. As usual, the Dragon King suddenly erupted with a terrifying force and directly turned around to attack. The Scandinavian divine realm did not panic at all. On the contrary, everything was within expectations. As the wise man said, your Dragon King's force is not simple. You will definitely kill your way here today. Hehe, not bad, very strong strength. A voice that sounded like a loud bell rang throughout the entire world. In the depths of the Yuan clan, white light illuminated the entire mountain peak. 4 huge Pegasus soared into the sky, pulling the divine throne. Divine King Okuden, who was emitting divine light, held a divine staff in his hand. 2 huge black crows were located on the left. A metal disc above his head was emitting milky white light. A group of gods from the Nordic celestial domain stood at the back. Behind them were a group of divine servants and warriors. About 5,000 people rose into the sky like the sun. In their place, it was as if they formed their own domain, suppressing an entire world. Divine King Okuden stared expressionlessly at Wang Xian's position. His face revealed a cold expression. At this moment, a group of immortal gods from the Yuan clan flew out from the side and stood beside King Okuden. There were 3 crystal coffins in front of them. One of the coffins was exquisitely carved and placed in the middle. 6 immortal gods held the coffins and placed them in the air. Dragon King, today, I will use your head as a tribute to my wife. A furious roar was heard. Yuanhua stared at Wang Xian with a ferocious expression. Everyone was filled with killing intent. The icy cold killing intent caused the air within a radius of dozens of kilometers to freeze. 78. No, there are 88 immortals from the Yuan clan and the Northern European Divine Territory. There are 10 more than what they announced. The Northern European Divine Territory and the Yuan clan seem to have predicted that the Dragon King would come, so they have been waiting here for a long time. Could there be an ambush? 88 immortals might not be a match for the Dragon King. The group of immortals and experts from the immortal sects who were hiding in the surroundings watched this scene in astonishment. The Dragon King had suddenly erupted with a powerful force. In the end, the Norse celestial realm and the Yuan clan had long been prepared to guess that the Dragon King would come. Today I'm going to exterminate all of you. I'm going to exterminate all of you. The grand wedding has already been held. Next, let's hold a grand funeral. Wang Xian slowly stood up from the dragon throne. He stared coldly at the godly King Okerding. Haha, Dragon King, you dare to kill my daughter. Today I will use your blood and soul to atone for my sins. I will kill everyone in your dragon palace. The godly King Okerding stood up abruptly. The white light on his body shone brightly. He was like the invincible godly King of Light. If he wanted the world to have light, there would be light. With just you guys. A hint of mockery appeared in Wang Xian's eyes as he swept his gaze across all of them. There were 88 immortals, over 4,000 experts from the celestial domain, and the experts from the Yuan clan. There were a total of over 6,000 people. Everyone behind the King of God was wearing divine armor and emitting a divine glow. Many of them held a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. There were also some who held a long spear and a staff in their hands. These were the people from the Nordic Divine Territories army. They were extremely powerful. There were more than a dozen of them who were merely half-step immortal gods. The strength of this army could definitely sweep across the entire world without the immortal gods appearing. We alone are enough. However, Dragon King, we will make it difficult for you to escape today. The Yuan clan's supreme elder said with a cold gaze. After he finished speaking, Divine King Okutin raised a divine staff in his hand. N.U.S. Hee, Dragon King, the wise ones have long expected that your dragon palace's strength is extraordinary, but we will still be destroyed. Today is the day your Dragon King will die. Haha, you dare to bully the people of the Roman Divine Realm. Today you will die. Today we will fight for the Divine King. Roars rang out one after another. In the surrounding void space, many experts who were riding Pegasus, holding divine staffs, and sitting on the divine thrones gathered beside the godly monarch Okutin. All of them stared at Wuxia coldly. The killing intent spread once again. What? How could it be? Another 60 immortals have appeared. Oh my god, oh my god. At this moment, the middle-aged streamer who was broadcasting in the distance revealed a look of astonishment. Today was really full of twists and turns. Until the end, no one knew what the outcome would be. Everyone thought that the Dragon King's strength was far inferior to that of the Nordic Divine Realm and the Yuan clan, but in the end, the Dragon King directly led more than 70 immortals to kill them. The number of these 70 immortals on the surface, in addition to the immortals in the Dragon Palace who were good at hiding, was unknown. But everyone thought that since the Dragon King dared to attack, he must have absolute confidence. In the end, just when everyone thought that the Dragon King would win, 60 immortals suddenly appeared. And they were all powerful immortals. The leader of the ancient Greek divine realm led a group of immortals. The leader of the Garden of Eden, Mad God, led a group of immortals. Although the leader of the Roman divine realm did not come, there was a god of the dead. The god of the dead, who was second only to the king of the Roman celestial domain. 60 immortals had directly increased the power of the Norse celestial king, Odin, to 148 immortals. Close to 150 immortals, close to 150 immortals. Seeing this terrifying power, everyone felt their scalps go numb. The three celestial domains actually listened to the orders of the Norse celestial king. They had long guessed that the Dragon King would lead his subordinates here. It's over. Everything about the Dragon King is within the opponent's expectations. The Dragon King has completely fallen. I really didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. The surrounding immortals and gods hiding in the surroundings watched this scene in shock. To the west of the sky was the territory of the Yuan clan. All of the immortals and gods of the Yuan clan were hiding in the sky as they watched from afar. When they saw these two huge factions, they also sucked in a breath of cold air. The Dragon King is indeed invincible, but what can we do? After all, the other party is a divine realm with 2,000 to 3,000 years of history. The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan slowly shook his head and sighed. The Dragon King has already comprehended a divine ability, and the battle that the Divine King displayed that night must have also comprehended a divine ability. Unless the Dragon King is able to completely suppress the Divine King, otherwise. A white-haired old man standing beside the Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan said slowly with bright eyes. This old man stood in the center, and even the Supreme Elder was one step behind. This was a hidden supreme expert of the Yuan clan. The Dragon King and the Dragon Palace have fallen. The surrounding immortals and gods thought so, and so did the Yuan clan. Dragon King, this is a complete fall. Chapter 857. Chapter 857, You are not qualified yet. Go. The Dragon King was defeated. Seeing this scene, whether it was the immortals hiding in the surroundings or the billions of people who had turned off the livestream, close to 150 immortals were completely suppressing the 70 to 80 immortals of the Dragon Palace, with a maximum of 100 immortals. There were quite a number of upper-level immortals in the Dragon Palace, but the upper-level immortals of the Nordic Divine Realm and the Yuan clan were not weak either. In a situation where they were almost equal, the difference in numbers was 50. There was no chance for the Dragon King to win at all. With the blood of the Dragon Palace, I shall pay tribute to my daughter's life. Above the peaks of the Yuan clan, the godly king sat on his divine throne. He slowly raised the divine staff in his hand. Begin the trial. Begin the trial. The trial of the gods. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the gods instantly scattered around and surrounded Wang Xian and the others. It's about to start. The trial of the godly king is about to begin. The Dragon King is going to be finished. The streamer who was broadcasting from afar immediately retreated. His eyes were filled with shock. They're here. Prime Minister Gui saw the group of gods surrounding them. He smiled and said faintly. Wang Xian, who was sitting on the dragon throne, was full of smiles. Ah, what monster! What monster is this? Suddenly a shocked voice was heard. The voice was filled with shock and fear. It was the voice of an immortal. The tense atmosphere and the tense battle were about to break out. It was shocked by this sudden voice. Everyone could not help but look towards the west. What exactly was it that could cause an immortal to be so terrified? Hiss hiss. In an instant the sound of gasping could be heard. One by one the immortal gods hidden in the void could not help but retreat. Those who had not reached the level of an immortal god were even more frightened to the point of peeing on their butts. It was a terrifying monster. This monster had a body size of more than 300 meters and was incomparably huge. What shocked everyone the most was that it could still fly in the sky even without wings. A savage aura surged over, as if it came from the primeval world. This was definitely the largest creature on Earth. When everyone saw this monster, a shocked expression appeared on their faces. It was too terrifying. Ayo! The monster let out a slight roar resounding throughout the surrounding sky. Even the surrounding clouds dissipated with this roar. Kuan, the first Kuan Shaolon. There are creatures on it. At this moment, an immortal god suddenly pointed at the top of the Kuan and shouted in shock. There were people and other creatures standing on it. A swordsman with a golden sword. A strange prawn that was emitting lightning and a demon monkey that was emitting demonic aura. This is. Upon seeing the familiar creature on it, everyone around was shocked. Dragon King. The voices of the members of the Dragon Palace came from the Kuan. One by one the immortal gods of the Dragon Palace came to the back of Wang Xian. One by one, 100 immortal gods came to the back and scanned the surroundings with full of fighting spirit. The Kuan swayed its huge tail and its eyes the size of a house stared in the direction of the godly king. It stood quietly in the void without moving. This, 100 immortal gods, 100 immortal gods. Oh my god, the godly monarch suddenly sent out 60 immortal gods, and the Dragon King sent out 100, a whole 100. Until the end we'll never know who is stronger. The Dragon Palace's Dragon King is awesome. What godly monarch is that 350 meters or so? How can it be so huge? The aura it gives off is so terrifying. The people who were watching all had looks of disbelief on their faces. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon King was going to die, another 100 immortal gods and an abnormally terrifying creature appeared in the Dragon Palace. This plot was too complicated. The godly king and all the immortal gods of the Yuan clan slowly became embarrassed. 100 immortal gods and the Dragon Palace suddenly had 100 immortal gods. The situation changed drastically in an instant. Now the Dragon Palace had an additional 40 to 50 immortals compared to them. This made the godly monarch's face extremely ugly. His eyes sparkled. The immortals from the Yuan clan were even more terrified. The gods from the 3 major celestial realms who came to pledge their loyalty also had ugly expressions. Their eyes were filled with solemnity. Hee, is it beyond your expectations now? Wang Xian looked at the white-bearded old man with a smile and asked with a smile. It was indeed out of his expectations that the Nordic celestial realm and the Yuan clan would send out 148 immortals in one go. However, Wang Xian did not mind. He had brought along the Hydra and 100 members of the Dragon Palace. The Hydra was an old monster who had lived for more than 2,000 years. Its strength was already at the peak of the upper-level immortal realm for a few hundred years. Now this opportunity had allowed him to step into the extraordinary realm. With his and Hydra's strength, they were able to destroy the entire Nordic divine territory and the 148 immortals of the Yuan clan. The strength that he brought along was already a foolproof preparation. However, Wang Xian was not here purely to destroy them. He was here to train his troops. That's right, to train his troops. It was not easy for him to meet a decent faction. He wanted the members of the Dragon Palace to fight and accumulate experience. Hence, Prime Minister Gui asked Kuan to bring 100 immortals with him. Dragon King, I really didn't expect this. I really didn't expect that the wise man of the Nordic divine realm would be so wrong this time. The white-haired elder was a little agitated. He glanced at everyone around him with an embarrassed expression and growled softly. Judge me? Today will be the anniversary of your death. Wang Xian stood up and swept his cold gaze across all of them. As soon as he finished his sentence, the members of the Dragon Palace behind him instantly stepped forward and swept their cold gazes across all of them. There were more than 2,000 members of the Dragon Palace. They were fighting against 6,000 to 7,000 members of the Northern European Divine Territory and the Yuan clan. Good. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. The God King's face was filled with anger. He held the golden disc above his head and held the divine staff in his hand. Dragon King, your strength is really far beyond our expectations. However, so what if your Dragon Palace has 200 immortals and gods? As long as I kill you, the members of the Dragon Palace, will follow me to slaughter. Victory will still belong to us. I am the king of all gods, Okurdin. I am an invincible existence on earth. The God King Okurdin held the divine staff in his hand, and the light energy on his body flourished. He gave off an endless divine might, and his face was full of confidence and arrogance as he roared. His aura, the God King's aura, instantly stunned everyone around him. So domineering. As expected of the God King. Facing such a situation, he is still so domineering. As expected of the King of the Gods. This is a true expert, a true king. The God King is right. If he can really kill the Dragon King quickly, this victory will still belong to the Nordic God domain and the Yuan clan. The surrounding immortals and people watching the live broadcast were impressed by the God King's domineering aura. They looked on in astonishment. Chapter 858. Chapter 858. You are not qualified. Get down. Dragon King, come and fight with me. I will take your head within 100 moves. The godly king moved and flew down from his throne. He stood in the air and faced all the powerhouses of the Dragon Palace with a cold gaze. The light from his body filled a radius of more than 10 kilometers. He shouted at Wang Xian with an invincible aura. When they saw the godly king's aura, everyone's expression changed slightly. This aura had the qualifications to suppress the gods. Fight. Even if we don't have as many people as you, the gods of the divine territory have nothing to fear. Kill. With the godly king around, so what if their number doubles? Fight. When they saw the godly king being so domineering and facing the immortals of the Dragon Palace with his aura alone, the surrounding gods and the immortals of the Yuan clan had their fighting spirit ignited as they roared loudly. Fight. Kill. Behind them, the experts who had not reached the immortal god realm roared loudly with killing intent. The godly monarch had ignited the flames of war for everyone single-handedly. In terms of aura, he far surpassed the members of the Dragon Palace. He's too domineering. The godly monarch is indeed the godly monarch. With such spirit, there's a high possibility of him defeating the strong even if he's weaker. No wonder the Western God realm is willing to bow down to us. Through the live broadcast, many martial artists were shocked by the mighty and domineering aura of the godly king. The flames of war between the God realm and the Yuan clan had been ignited. They could even unleash 150 points of combat strength. Fight with me? Wang Xian looked at the opponent in front of him who was surging with spirit and excitement. He laughed out loud and his face was filled with sarcasm. You are not qualified yet. You are not qualified yet. Wang Xian's cold voice reverberated within a radius of dozens of kilometers. TSK. A little piece of trash wants to challenge our Dragon King. You are really not qualified. Just as Wang Xian finished his words, Ba Qi moved and came to the front of the center. He had 9 heads and stared at the godly king with an evil look. You dare to call yourself the godly king and challenge our Dragon King? His sarcastic voice resounded throughout the world. As Ba Qi stood in the center, a viscous demonic aura was emitted from his body. With a slight movement of his palm, a skeleton staff appeared. It was filled with evil demonic aura and charged directly at the light energy in front of him. There are a total of 148 celestials and disciples of the Dragon Palace. Send out 148 of them to train the troops. Begin. Prime Minister Gue stood beside the immortal dragon throne and said to everyone in the Dragon Palace in a soft voice. There was no domineering declaration, nor was there an invincible aura. His calm voice stunned everyone around him. The Dragon Palace only sent 148 immortals to fight one-on-one. The godly king was not qualified to challenge the Dragon King. The Dragon King did not make a move. Training begin. The Dragon King simply did not put the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan in his eyes. The godly monarch challenged the Dragon King. In the end, one of his underlings came up to fight the godly monarch. Furthermore, judging from his aura, he was completely capable of contending with the godly monarch. What the fuck, what the fuck? The appearance of the octahedron and Prime Minister Gui's words instantly made the faces of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan extremely ugly. Kill? But at this moment, Prime Minister Gui's words rang out once again. In an instant Bachi moved. His 9 mouths opened and black snake-like tongues attacked the godly monarch. Roar! 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 Behind him a group of demon monkeys roared. A few immortal god-level demon monkeys held the sea-pacifying divine needles and smashed forward. The Thunder Shrimp clan of the Thunder Tribe, Ao Crab, and a group of killer crabs. More than 100 Golden Swordfish clan members charged forward in an instant. Hiss, retreat, quickly retreat. The great battle broke out in an instant, causing the immortal gods hiding in the surroundings to hurriedly retreat. They did not stop until they were dozens of kilometers away. 300 immortal gods were fighting, and 2 immortal kings were fighting. The Dragon King really did not make a move. There are still a group of immortals and gods beside the Dragon King who did not make a move. It seems that the Dragon King does not put the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan in his eyes at all. Everyone around looked at the explosion of the battle in shock. The godly king's aura was overwhelming, but in the Dragon King's eyes, everything was a joke. Even the Dragon King did not make a move. This kind of confidence was not what the godly monarch was talking about. Boom! In the sky the 9 tongues were like giant snakes. In an instant, they became 1,000 meters long and landed on the light shield in front of the godly monarch. You bastard! You're courting death. The godly monarch Oakden's face was filled with anger and rage. The radiance of the gods. He raised his divine staff, and 10,000 rays of white light in the sky shot toward the octahedron. The white light was filled with the power of judgment. Jejia, the radiance of the gods? Oh man, what is a god? Gods are only powerful cultivators. They can only deceive all living beings and judge me. You are not qualified enough. Bachi laughed maniacally and retracted his tongue. The head in the middle grew longer and in an instant, it became more than 100 meters long. You are only in existence at the first level of transcendence. You want to judge me? Yes. He opened his mouth and the poisonous substances in the sky welcomed the 10,000 white rays of light. Bzzz. Bzzz. The sounds of corrosion in the sky, the battle between light and darkness, the godly monarch versus Bachi. Beast, today I represent the light and will send you to hell. The godly monarch's expression changed slightly when he heard Bachi's words. He waved his arm and the eyes of the 2 huge crows on the throne emitted a dazzling white light. Their bodies grew dozens of meters in size and they bit towards Bachi's body. I hate that you're so high and mighty, so I'm going to kill you. A cold expression flashed in Bachi's eyes. He was a creature that would always seek revenge for his flaws. He would make anyone who dared to insult him miserable. The so-called godly monarch was only SOSO. Boom boom boom. Caw caw. In an instant Bachi returned to his full form. His 9 heads, 9 tails and 150-meter-long body floated in the air. A terrifying demonic chi shot into the sky. The 2 crows were instantly swallowed by the 2 heads. 9 Inferno Hell. His 9 huge mouths opened and a terrifying demonic flame shot towards God King Okuden. Holy light protection. God King Okuden's expression changed slightly. His eyes revealed a serious expression and a trace of panic flashed across his eyes. He did not expect that one of the Dragon King's subordinates actually had a strength that was on par with his. Then how strong would this Dragon King be? Thinking of this, he glanced at the Dragon King who was sitting on the dragon throne and looking at him with a smile on his face. A trace of fear flashed across his eyes. The Dragon King had not made a move yet. If he did? You dare to be distracted while fighting with me? Bachijio's eyes were filled with coldness and viciousness. A huge tail swept out. Not good. God King Okuden's expression changed drastically. He roared, God King's body. Boom. Bachi Jio's terrifying tail swept across God King Okuden's body, causing him to fly thousands of meters away. Chapter 859. Chapter 859, Dragon Palace's Might. What? The godly monarch was actually suppressed by that terrifying monster. It's too terrifying. Whether it's the godly monarch's explosive strength or the nine-headed monster's explosive strength, it's not something an ordinary high-level immortal can match. They've already entered another realm. Just as that monster said, the so-called godly monarch is just a powerful cultivator. What's more, this time the godly monarch is going to be destroyed. Everyone around looked at the Dragon King, who was sitting on the dragon throne with a dignified expression. Their hearts were filled with respect. There were still dozens of immortals and gods beside the Dragon King. They did not make a move and were watching the battle from above. Just like what the old man with the turtle shell beside the Dragon King said, they were training their troops. Otherwise they would not have done such a thing. Training their troops. They were using the God King's Northern European divine territory and the Yuan clan to train their troops. Let's begin. I wonder how the first time you played it, Tang Yinshen said with a smile. She glanced at Wang Xian with a smile on her face. I also want to see how powerful the effects will be when our Dolphin Queen leads the Dolphin clan. Wang Xian said to Tang Yinshen jokingly. Just watch. Come, sisters, let's mingle. Tang Yinshen let out a soft shout and Guqin appeared in front of them one by one. She moved her arms slightly. A very special sound was transmitted forward. The sound seemed to be filled with a special magic power. Invisible water vapor covered the entire battlefield. At this moment, the immortal gods of the Nordic divine territory and the Yuan clan were engaged in a huge battle with the Dragon Palace. In a situation where the number of immortal gods was equal, there were no casualties yet. The strange demon, who was hiding in the void, was also looking for an opportunity. Buzz, buzz, buzz. When a special sound was heard, the entire battlefield seemed to be covered by a special energy. All the members of the Dragon Palace, including the immortal god realm's instant body, felt their minds clear, and the power in their bodies became even stronger. The faces of the immortals and experts of the Nordic divine territory and the Yuan clan changed. They felt the energy in their bodies slow down, and their bodies became stiff, and their vision became hazy. Roar. Ao Qiqian looked at the superior immortal in front of him and paused for a moment, then the ocean-pacifying needle in his hand directly smashed toward the top of his head. The leader of the ancient Greek divine territory sensed the great danger and instantly woke up from his trance. He hurriedly dodged. Bang! However, a terrifying force smashed onto his arm, causing his expression to change drastically. Ring, ring, ring. Not good. I feel that there is a powerful energy disturbing my mind and body. Ah, ah, ah. In an instant, when the interweaving energy covered the battlefield, the screams of a few immortals and gods could be heard. Ao Jian held the ice-cold longsword in his hand and chopped off the arm of the Yuan clan's supreme elder. What kind of energy is this? It can make their momentum shake and even disturb us. The Yuan clan's grand elder's eyes were filled with fear as he stared at Ao Jian with vigilance. Whoosh! However, Ao Jian did not give him any time. The long sword in his hand attacked him once again. Streaks of sharp sword rays were traceless and soundless, making the Yuan clan's grand elder's face extremely ugly. He could only use the earth attribute to defend himself. Ao Jian against the supreme elder of the Yuan clan. Ao Shrimp against the leader of the Garden of Eden's divine domain. Ao Qiqian against the leader of the ancient Greek divine domain. As for Ao Yao, he was locked onto the nether god of the Roman divine domain in the void. The one fighting against the nether god was Ao Crab. Ao Crab was also a high god, and his 8 arms continuously attacked the nether god. However, the nether god was too fast, and Ao Crab couldn't keep up with his speed. 10,000 swords. Lightning. Right at this moment, 2 loud shouts rang out, and the entire battlefield instantly changed dramatically. One cold metal sword after another, one bolt of lightning after another descended from the sky. A large-scale attack. Roar, roar, charge. Ao Qiqian let out a loud roar, charging straight into the center of the gods. The demon monkeys followed closely behind, and the 50-meter-long sea-pacifying needles swept out in all directions. Berserk, berserk, berserk. Chaos. Tang Yinshen shouted coldly, and the 10 dolphins around them let out strange sounds at the same time. The sound once again covered the entire battlefield. Ah! From below the battlefield, a continuous stream of miserable screams could be heard. It was a battlefield where the experts of the Nordic god realm and the Yuan clan had yet to reach the immortal god level, and the members of the Dragon Palace had yet to reach the immortal god level. The sounds made by Tang Yinshen and the others had a great impact on the immortal gods, and it was like a demonic sound to those who had yet to reach the immortal god realm. The moment the chaos was released, many people stood there in a daze. Between the experts and on the battlefield, a moment of daze meant death. Groups of experts were killed. Violent demon monkeys, ice-cold longswords, and exploding lightning bolts were harvesting groups of creatures. 10,000 swords, lightning, and chaos united in the sky, causing the expressions of the immortals and deities of the Northern European gods' domain and Yuan clan to turn incomparably ugly. They all cultivated separately. They were completely different from the demon monkeys, golden swordfish, and thunder prawns that cultivated together. In the dragon arena, each battle team's creatures cultivated together and sparred with each other. Their combined attacks far surpassed the Nordic domains and the Yuan clans. Miserable cries rang out once more. This time 20 bodies fell directly to the ground below. 7 or 8 immortal gods were instantly heavily injured. Strange demon who was hidden in the void attacked. Underworld god in the darkness? An underworld god that specializes in assassination? Your reaction is quite fast. Ao Yao's voice rang out. He stared at the underworld god who was covered in black robes and said with a smile, "Damn it." A sinister voice came out of the underworld god's mouth. His blood-red eyes stared at the strange demon and his arm shook. However, suddenly his expression changed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "It's poisonous. It's poisonous. No, no, no." The 7 or 8 immortal gods who had just dodged the strange demon's fatal attack had their expressions change drastically as they cried out in terror. Poison. Poison was created by a group of venomous snakes under Baki's command. Currently, there were more than 10 immortal gods under Baki's command. These venomous snakes did not participate in battle. Instead, they specialized in researching poisons. The poison smeared on the strange demon's sharp claws could directly kill a middle-level immortal. Even a high-level immortal had to be careful. The group of immortal gods that had just avoided their vitals were instantly poisoned to death. In just a short minute, 30 immortal gods from the Northern European Divine Territory and the Yuan clan had died. Kiki, the feast of slaughter has begun. Godly monarch, look at how all your subordinates have been annihilated. Don't be anxious. Soon you will die too. The 8-headed celestial race hovered in the void 10,000 meters away like a world-destroying wild snake. Each of them had a huge head and a terrifying tail as they stared at the godly monarch in front of them. Their faces were filled with malevolence and coldness. The godly monarch's luxurious clothes were now black and red. He did not have the noble and kingly aura that he had at the beginning. "I'm not resigned. Even if I have to die, I will destroy you, you beast." Chapter 860. Chapter 860, Under the Might of the Dragon Palace. The Divine King's roar resounded through the heaven and earth. His voice was filled with anger and despair. A subordinate of the Dragon King had power comparable to his own. He did not dare to imagine how strong the Dragon King would be. He had already lost the battle from the very beginning. It's almost over. When the strange demon launched its first round of attack, the entire battlefield had already lost its balance. The immortals and gods hiding dozens of kilometers away watched the battle in shock. The strength of the Dragon Palace was too terrifying. In a one-on-one battle, they had killed 30 immortals and gods in just 5 minutes. They were immortals and gods. The terrifying demon monkey, swordsman, and Lei Xia can even fight against 2 immortals of the divine realm and the Yuan clan. Even if those terrifying assassins don't take action, they will be defeated very quickly. The light creature that assassinated them made people's scalps go numb. In an instant they assassinated 30 celestials. Even if they were hit in the body, even if they didn't get hit in the vitals, they would still be poisoned to death by the powerful poison. Not only that strange light creature but also the girl beside the Dragon King and those special dolphins. The sounds they released felt like they had a powerful magic power. The strongest godly monarch in the West and the strongest divine realm are going to be finished. The Yuan clan is going to be finished too. Some immortals and gods in the surroundings were discussing. As the live broadcast platform was too far away, they could only listen to the live streamer's description. But that was all. Everyone on Earth was also very shocked. Especially not far from here, the power and sound of this war resounded over thousands of kilometers in the surrounding area. When one raised their head, they could see the battle. It was even more dazzling than the sun. Holy judgment. At this moment, the godly monarch's furious roar sounded again. He held the divine staff with both hands solemnly, and a golden disc slowly rose from the top of his head. Behind him, an angel with huge wings formed. The angel held the long sword of light in his hand and attacked the octahedron. The angel was at least 1,000 meters tall and was extremely terrifying. Divine ability, is it? Alright, I'll let you see my divine ability too, Kiki. Serpentium Doc Sky. Bachi's eyes were filled with excitement. His huge body curled up together and curled up in the sky. It made one's scalp go numb. A corrosive demonic aura surged up from his body. The 9 heads grew longer and attacked Divine King Odin from all directions. Boom! The powerful and terrifying sword of light was hundreds of meters long. When it slashed at Bachi's head, a huge gash instantly appeared. However, at this moment, the tail curled up together and corrosive demonic chi spread towards the gash, instantly healing it. Hiss. Bachi opened his huge mouth, and a terrifying corrosive power spread out like rain. Every one of them was the size of a wash basin. Holy light, sweep through all darkness. God King Okurdin waved the divine staff in his hand, and the sword of light that was hundreds of meters long immediately swept through the surroundings. Light restrained darkness, and darkness similarly corroded light. Sizzle, sizzle. The sound was endless, and at this moment the corrosive liquid turned into sinister vipers. Vipers filled the sky and attacked the angels. Kiki, go berserk, Kiki. 9 heads that were dozens of meters in size, carrying countless small vipers, attacked. This scene caused everyone to be terrified. What? Die. The God King's expression changed drastically. He waved his divine staff, and the 1,000-meter-long angel, which covered his body, swung the sword of light at the same time. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 heads opened their huge mouths and bit the sword of light. Their sinister eyes were full of mockery. How can a weak human compete with me? The other 6 heads of the octahedron let out sinister smiles. The 6 heads and countless small vipers attacked the angel. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of an explosion rang out as the angel rapidly melted. The sword of light also quickly disappeared. The 9 heads and 9 pairs of eyes coldly looked down at the godly monarch below. With a sinister smile, they opened their huge mouths and rapidly dived down. Ah! A miserable cry rang out. This miserable cry caused the bodies of the gods in the divine realm, as well as the immortal gods of the Yuan clan, to tremble violently. The godly monarch had fallen. The godly monarch is dead. Everyone was shocked, and despair appeared in their eyes. The godly monarch was, after all, still a human. The 8-headed serpent was a heaven and earth mutant, and now that it had cultivated the demonic dragon transformation, killing the godly monarch was not too difficult. After a battle, the 8-headed serpent was not even injured. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The 8-headed serpent floated 10,000 meters high in the air. Its 9 heads looked down coldly, watching the godly monarch's body fall to the ground, and watched the battle below. Roar! Ao Chichen was also aroused by the death of the godly king. He was originally the strongest existence in the Dragon Palace, but he was caught up by a snake. The competitive Ao Chichen let out a wild roar. His body was covered in black scales and horns. He held the 50-meter-long ocean-pacifying needle in his hand and smashed it toward the ancient Greek leader. Below, Ao Shrimp and Ao Jian swept their eyes over, unwilling to fall behind. Thunder spear piercing the sky. Merciless sword thrust. 2 cold sounds rang out as the thunder spear in Ao Chi's hand seemed to be a sharp weapon that could pierce through the heaven and earth. It was thrown directly toward the mad god. The last song boiling. Seeing this scene, Tang Yinshan smiled. With a shake of his arm, the strings of the guqin in front of him also began to vibrate. Waves of violent sounds covered the entire battlefield. interweaving, chaotic, and boiling. Each sound wave was stronger than the last. Together with the members of the Dragon Palace, they were able to activate 150% of their combat strength. Moreover, they could greatly interfere with and even suppress other creatures. Ah! In an instant, the blood of the immortals spilled all over the ground, and the corpses of the gods fell. Flee! A terrified voice sounded. The gods of the Garden of Eden, ancient Greece, and Rome saw the rapidly falling gods and were filled with shock. Fear made them flee in panic. If the first god escaped, there would soon be a second. You still want to escape, trash? The eight-limbed eyes in the sky revealed a trace of mockery as his terrifying tail swept out. Ping! The escaping immortal god did not even have time to react before he was killed by the terrifying snake tail. The heavens want to destroy our Yuan clan. There were only a dozen or so of the Yuan clan's immortal gods left. They were in a sorry state, and their eyes were filled with regret and misery. Haha, the heavens want to destroy our Yuan clan. An immortal god from the Yuan clan shouted crazily, his hair disheveled. You brought this on yourself, you can't live with yourself. The immortals hiding in the surroundings looked at the Yuan clan's immortal god who was roaring crazily with emotion. If they knew this would happen, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. 3 days ago, the Dragon King came to your wedding and gave you a congratulatory gift. You humiliated him in public. Now the Dragon King has given you a huge funeral. After today, the Dragon King's power will shock the whole world. Chapter 861. Chapter 861, respectfully sent the Dragon King off. Dead, all of them are dead. It seems that not a single expert from the Dragon Palace has died. The battle slowly came to an end. When the body of divine King Okurdan fell from the sky, when the gods from the Roman celestial domain, the Garden of Eden celestial domain, and the ancient Greek celestial domain tried to escape. When the immortal gods of the Yuan clan screamed in pain, they were completely defeated. In less than 10 minutes, all the immortal gods were killed. Those experts who had yet to reach the immortal god level were also killed. 148 immortal gods were killed along with a godly king. This was a war that shocked the entire world. More than 300 immortal gods participated in it, and more than 100 of them died. This made the name of the invincible Dragon King. Bring all the corpses here. Take all the treasures of the Yuan clan with you. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and swept his gaze across the fresh blood below. The blood of the powerhouses and the blood of the immortals possessed a powerful energy. It was absorbed by the dragon pool and converted into dragon blood. With the 148 corpses of the immortals and the corpse of the godly King Okurdan, it was sufficient to increase the number of members of the Dragon Palace by 70 to 80 or even more than 100. Battle to nourish the battle. Wang Xian was rather satisfied with this battle, especially with the strength displayed by Tang Yinxian and the group of dolphins. In a group battle, the effect was too terrifying. Wang Xian was also very satisfied with the strange demon's performance. However, Wang Xian wasn't too satisfied with the golden swordfish, demon monkey, and thunder shrimp. The members of the Dragon Palace possessed dragon blood and cultivated the divine dragon transformation. They belonged to the otherworldlings and had a higher physique than humans. However, it would take a long time for them to end the battle in a 1 versus 2 situation. The Dragon Palace's foundations are too weak. The time they have cultivated is too short. Wang Xian thought to himself. He wanted his subordinates to be at least as strong as Octahedron. It was not that Octahedron was extraordinary, but it was the same level of combat strength. With Octahedron's strength, it should be easy for him to kill 2 or 3 people of the same level. Just like the battle with the godly king, Octahedron had no ability to resist at the end. Even if 2 more godly kings came, they would not be his opponent. Of course, this was largely because 8 points had lived for more than 2,000 years. His foundation was very strong, his foundation was deep, and his methods were also extremely powerful. In the universe, the lifespan of humans was relatively short. Many creatures had a lifespan of thousands to tens of thousands of years. The accumulation of time allowed them to have a powerful attack power that far exceeded that of humans. The accumulation time of the members of the Dragon Palace was still too short. Dragon King, everything is taken care of. In less than 20 minutes, all the members of the Dragon Palace came before Wang Xian and spoke respectfully. Below, at the Yuan clan, all the members of the clan were lying on the ground with ashen faces, not daring to move an inch. Just now, when the members of the Dragon Palace went down to search for treasures, some of them wanted to resist but were killed immediately. As the pressure was released, everyone from the Yuan clan knelt on the ground. Let's go back. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. The 9 dragons swayed their bodies and flew slowly in the direction of the Dragon Palace. Greetings, Dragon King. At this moment, an immortal god who was hiding in the surroundings hesitated for a moment before shouting respectfully in the direction of the Dragon King. Respectfully send off the Dragon King. When the other immortal gods saw that someone had revealed themselves, they all revealed themselves and respectfully shouted in the direction of the Dragon King. At this moment the entire area rang out, respectfully send off the Dragon King. This scene was seen by everyone through the live broadcast. The hearts of everyone watching the live broadcast trembled slightly. At this moment, there were already 70 to 80 immortal gods watching from the surroundings, coming from various immortal sections. Even the immortals from the Shenyuan clan were around. All the immortal sects, including the Shenyuan clan's immortals, bowed at the same time and shouted respectfully to send the Dragon King off. This was recognition for the Dragon King, this was recognition for the world's strongest overlord. The Dragon Palace has at least 200 immortals. The Dragon Palace's strength, even if the entire Wuxia immortal sects were added together, is not as strong as the Dragon Palace. The Western realm of gods was killed by the Nordic king, the Nordic realm of gods was destroyed, the Garden of Eden realm of gods, the ancient Greek realm of gods, and the Roman realm of gods were all destroyed. Now, the strength of the entire Western realm of gods added together is still not enough for the Dragon King to kill. The Dragon Palace is already invincible in the world. Everyone thought to themselves. The Dragon Palace was too strong, so strong that the forces that destroyed the Nordic king and the Yuan clan's immortals did not suffer any casualties. In the future, the Dragon King will be the one and only king in the entire world. Therefore, the immortals respectfully called out to send the Dragon King off. The immortals fell and blood flowed like a river. In the era of spiritual energy martial arts, 00010425th day, the Yuan clan, who was at its peak, formed a marriage alliance with the Nordic god realm, inviting all the great immortal sects and god realms on earth. The Yuan clan had invited the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace. In the end, at the wedding, the bride, Philomena, blatantly refused to give face to the Dragon King and sought death by provoking the Dragon King. In the end, she was killed on the spot by the Dragon King. The Nordic divine realm's divine king, Odin, was furious that night. He had led all the experts of the divine realm to come and die in order to destroy the Dragon King. The Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan had joined forces with 2 powerful forces. In the end, the number of immortals had reached 148. However, the Dragon King led a group of members of the Dragon Palace and completely destroyed the Norse celestial realm and the Yuan clan without any losses. Since then, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was the most powerful existence on Earth, and the Dragon King was also an invincible expert that surpassed all the immortals. In the era of spiritual energy martial arts, the Dragon King's deeds were recorded. This was a record of the Dragon King by some historians, and it was also a record of this incident. At this very moment in the Dragon Palace, the First Great War exposed many problems. Prime Minister Gue and a group of civil officials made a detailed summary of this Great War. The cultivation continued. The foundation of the Dragon Palace was too low and needed to be improved as soon as possible. After digesting the corpses of the immortals and deities, Wang Xian was ready to order the members of the Dragon Palace to start the journey of conquering the Earth's oceans. They would dominate the oceans and establish the invincible underwater Dragon Palace on Earth. The 5 lakes and 4 seas were the domain of the Dragon Palace. The 10,000-year-old water tribe were the subjects of the Dragon Palace. Time passed slowly. The Dragon Palace was developing at a terrifying speed. The strength of the water tribe in the Dragon Palace was improving every day. They cultivated the best attacks and enjoyed the most amount of spiritual energy. It was far from what the humans on Earth could compare to. The Dragon Palace's territory was also expanding rapidly, reaching the Western Seas. In the Western Seas there were a few sea gods. These sea gods also lived at the bottom of the sea. They even wanted to join the Dragon Palace, but they were directly rejected. All the resources at the bottom of the sea flowed into the Dragon Palace. All the water tribe members hoped to join the Dragon Palace. In just a short year, there were around 5,000 Water Tribe members who had passed the Dragon Gate. The number of members of the Dragon Palace had increased tremendously. Chapter 862. Chapter 862, Unify the Ocean. How was it, Xiao Xian? How did it go with Father Feng Lingtian? One day a year later, Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue and the rest asked with a smile when they saw Wang Xian return. When Xiao Yu saw her brother return, she stared at Wang Xian with a slightly red face and looked at him expectantly. It's done. We will prepare Xiao Yu's wedding in half a year. Wang Xian walked to Xiao Yu's side and patted her head as he said to her, "Brother, I'm not in a hurry. When are you going to hold your wedding with your sisters-in-law?" Xiao Yu said to Wang Xian with a slightly red face. She had been together with Feng Lingtian for 2 to 3 years. These 2 to 3 years were neither long nor short. Xiao Yu was already a 25-year-old girl. As for Wang Xian, he was already 26 years old this year. However, time did not leave any traces on their bodies. They still looked the same as before. U.S. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu and Ajia beside him. He glanced at Tang Yinxian and Elder Fan, intentionally or unintentionally, and chuckled. Right now your brother only has you to worry about. So, let's settle your wedding first, Xiao Yu. Guan Shuqing smiled and said to Xiao Yu, as for our wedding there's no rush. When Xiao Xian becomes a peerless master, we can get married again. That's right. We're with Xiao Xian every day so there's no rush. Let's settle your wedding first. Lan Qingyue and the others smiled. Although they were looking forward to the wedding, they were not in a hurry. Now that they were together every day, the wedding was just a formality. Now, all the members of the Dragon Palace were addressing them as the Dragon Queen. They could be considered as the real mistress of the Dragon Palace. I can only leave with peace of mind after I settle all your matters. Wang Xian said to Xiao Yu with a smile on his face. Brother, are you going to the Transcendental Continent? Xiao Yu frowned and said to Wang Xian. Just settle your matters and it will be over. There are no longer any opponents on Earth and the development of the Dragon Palace is about to reach a bottleneck. Therefore, let's go to Feng Yuan's world to take a look. Wang Xian said with a smile as he thought of Feng Yuan who had left Earth for 2 years. He wondered what the former empress was doing. Xiao Yu was a little silent. Brother, I'll go with you when the time comes, right? Hee. Wang Xian patted Xiao Yu's head lovingly. I'll go and take a look first. In the future I'll move the Dragon Palace to the entrance of that world. When the time comes I'll be able to come back directly from there. When I've really established my footing in the Transcendental Continent, I'll bring you guys there. Brother, you have to be more careful in the future. Xiao Yu said worriedly. Don't worry. Wang Xian smiled. It's not like I want to go there now. Besides, I won't die. With the ancestral tree and the soul returning wood, Wang Xian could revive in the Dragon Palace even if his physical body was damaged on the Transcendence Continent. When that time came he would be a hero again. He was filled with curiosity towards the Transcendence Continent. According to the Empress, the Transcendence Continent could only be considered as a real step into cultivation if one became a Transcendent. Above the Transcendence there was the Profound Void. Above the Profound Void there was longevity. In that world there were as many experts as the clouds and as many experts as the rain. The so-called immortals and gods of Earth were just small figures in that world. There were powerful dragons, old demons who had lived for tens of thousands of years and countless treasures. The sky was high enough for birds to fly, and the sea was wide enough for dragons to roam. Xiao Yu nodded slowly. Okay. Xiao Yu nodded. She knew that her brother had powerful treasures. Even if he died he could be resurrected in the Dragon Palace. This made her feel much more assured. Reporting to Dragon King, the entire ocean is under the control of our Dragon Palace. All the sea areas are under our control. At this moment, Prime Minister Gue came to the Dragon King's palace excitedly and reported to Wang Xian. All of them? A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. It's the Dragon King. Including the South Pole and the North Pole, all of them are under the control of our Dragon Palace. In addition, I plan to build an underwater city to form a true underwater culture. Prime Minister Gui's eyes were full of luster as he spoke. Build a city? Wang Xian's eyes were also sparkling. With the impact of the spiritual energy, many creatures on the seabed had evolved. Under his guidance and the guidance of the civil officials of the Dragon Palace, millions of aquatic creatures had already developed their intelligence. Build an underwater city to build a perfect underwater civilization. Alright, we will build a city around our Dragon Palace. Oh right, the Dragon Palace will be transferred to the entrance of the extraordinary mainland soon. The city will be planned there. Wang Xian nodded and said, "It's the Dragon King." Prime Minister Gui nodded immediately. Ding. Congratulations to the host for unifying the Earth's oceans and completing the side mission of unifying the oceans of 10,000 worlds. The reward is the dragon seed, the thorn dragon. At this moment, the system's voice rang out suddenly. Wang Xian was stunned for a moment before an excited expression appeared on his face. Dragon seed, thorn dragon. The mission of unifying the Earth's oceans has been completed. The reward is dragon seed, thorn dragon. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. His heart skipped a beat as the information of the Dragon Palace appeared in his mind. Dragon Palace, Level 2. Dragon Master, Wang Xian, Level 9 5 Elemental Divine Dragon. Buildings. Dragon King Palace, Level 2 increases the Dragon King's cultivation speed and recovery speed by 1,200%. Dragon Transformation Pool, Level 2, absorbing dragon blood can give birth to a dragon seed, dragon blood, 143232. Dragon Gate, Level 2, a fish can only become a dragon if it leaps through the Dragon Gate. It is effective against creatures below the extraordinaire level. Ocean Pacifying Needle, Level 2, Pillar of the Dragon Palace. Set a distance of 100 kilometers for the Dragon Palace to be peaceful. Increases the combat strength of the members of the Dragon Palace by 200%. Dragon Cave, Level 2 with 2,000 Dragon Caves, the cultivation speed of the creatures in the Dragon Cave will be increased by 800%. Dragon Field, Level 2, practice martial arts in the Dragon Field, increase comprehension by 400%. Dragon Array, Level 2, Dragon Palace Array, concealment, defense, gathering of spiritual energy, movement. Spirit Item. Ancestral Tree, Level, able to restore the soul of creatures below transcendent level. Activate the spiritual intelligence of creatures. Increase the speed of fire attribute cultivators by 200%. Attached. Dragon Transformation Pool to nurture dragon species. Current dragon species: Thorn Dragon, Golden Swordfish, Thunder Shrimp, Demon Monkey, Demon Hydra, Dragon Turtle, Yiksha, Clam Girl, Golden Lobster. As expected, there's an additional Thorn Dragon species in the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian looked at the information in the Dragon Palace and focused his attention on the Thorn Dragon. Thorn Dragon, wandering in the light and darkness, walker of light and darkness, reaper of slaughter. A message and an image appeared in Wang Xian's mind. This image was of a monster that was half light and half darkness. It wasn't much different from the strange demon's body size. It was about 1 to 2 meters in size, but it had sharp claws. Unlike the strange demon, this thorn dragon had a sharp claw on one arm and a scythe-like one on the other. Half light, half darkness, it was very strange. Chapter 863. Chapter 863, A Person from the Supernatural Continent. Wandering between light and darkness, the walker of light and darkness, the reaper of slaughter. This was the description of the thorn dragon. Coupled with the image of the thorn dragon in his mind, Wang Xian was shocked. Light and darkness have two attributes at the same time. Furthermore, they are two attributes that repel each other. Wang Xian's face was filled with astonishment. No wonder it could be called the strongest dragon species in assassination. When it grew up, it was able to assassinate the powerful existence of the divine dragon. Just these two attributes of light and darkness represented the formidable power and potential of the thorn dragon. It was a true king of assassination that wandered between light and darkness. When I completely obtained the inheritance, the strongest among the divine dragons in my mind was a 5-elemental divine dragon. The rest were divine dragons with two attributes. There was one 5-elemental dragon, 4 or 5 dragons with two attributes, and the rest were all single-attribute dragons. As the strongest assassination dragon nurtured by the Dragon Palace, the thorn dragon could assassinate single-attribute dragons. Even 2-attribute dragons have to be careful when facing thorn dragons. The thorn dragon only had a dozen subordinates in the 5-elemental Dragon Palace. That was because the group of dragon gods and dragon kings at that time did not obtain the insect clan's ultimate treasure, the mother nest. After they perished together, the group of dragon gods used their last bit of vitality to create the invincible divine dragon system and sent the mother nest into the dragon pool. In the entire universe, only Wang Xian's dragon pool possessed the ability of the mother nest. Obtaining the thorn dragon seed at this time is a huge help to me in conquering the supernatural continent. Thorn dragon seed, the most powerful assassination dragon seed. Let me see your power. Wang Xian smiled and said to Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqin and the rest, I'm going to the dragon pool to cultivate a member of the dragon palace. He went straight to the dragon pool and swept his gaze across the dragon pool below. At this moment, the dragon pool contained more than 50 million dragon blood. This dragon blood could allow an ordinary member of the dragon palace to instantly advance to the immortal level. To advance to the level of a dragon seed, I need to use a member of the dragon clan as a carrier. Let Ao Yao give it a try. Ao Yao has already reached the first level of transcendence. I wonder how strong she will be after she advances to the level of a prickling dragon seed. Wang Xian thought to himself. With a thought, a bright shadow instantly appeared beside him. The bright and eerie demon exuded a terrifying aura as it stood respectfully behind him. Dragon King. Okay, you enter the dragon pool. Wang Xian ordered Ao Yao. It's the Dragon King. Ao Yao moved and entered the center of the dragon pool. Cultivate a thorny dragon seed. Wang Xian had a thought and immediately gave the order. Ding. Check the energy and attributes. Insufficient energy and insufficient attributes. Unable to cultivate a thorny dragon seed. System notification. The detected attributes and energy can cultivate a thorny light dragon seed. With sufficient energy, you can cultivate a thorny dark dragon seed. Use the thorny light and thorny dark dragon seeds as treasures to cultivate a thorny dragon seed. Instantly, the system's voice entered his mind, causing him to frown immediately. I can't believe it can't be cultivated yet. But that's true. If we can cultivate a large number of prickling dragon species, that would be too insane. Wang Xian mumbled, cultivate the light prickling dragon species. Cultivate the light prickling dragon species. Start cultivating. The system's voice rang out. In an instant, the 9 divine dragons on the few pillars around the dragon pool were emitting bright energy. Rays of bright energy shot out from the dragon's mouth. This energy was extremely gentle. When the 9 rays of light gathered together, a drop of milky white liquid appeared at the intersection. The liquid was like fresh blood. When this drop of white blood appeared, the light disappeared and the fresh blood slowly landed on the strange demon's body. The light pricking dragon seed should be much stronger than the strange demon's dragon seed, right? Wang Xian frowned and thought to himself. As the top dragon seed in the group of dragon gods, even if it was only a half-finished product, it should not be too weak. But the moment the white blood entered Ao Yao's body, 50 million dragon blood in the dragon pool gushed into Ao Yao's body frantically. A ball of milky white energy surrounded Ao Yao. It will take 10 days? Wang Xian looked at the progress and frowned slightly. Then he could only wait. After absorbing 50 million dragon blood in an instant, he did not know how strong the Ao Yao would be after being nurtured. What is this place? Why is there another grotto heaven behind a small cave? Could it be that we encountered a fortuitous encounter? Is this the treasure vault of an ultimate powerhouse? Haha, there's always good fortune after surviving a great disaster. We've been fleeing for so long, and the opportunity that belongs to us has arrived. Wait until we obtain the invincible divine technique and treasure, then we'll go back and suppress everything. At this moment, in the depths of the ocean, in front of the passage that had once been opened by the Empress Feng Yuan, more than 10 figures suddenly appeared. They nervously looked around and then shouted excitedly. They had originally been chased and fled to the sea and were chased by sea beasts. They had originally thought that it would be so, but they didn't expect to come here. It was a completely different world. Haha, the heavens have treated us well. In the middle, a burly middle-aged man whose upper body was naked and covered in blood scars revealed an excited expression as he shouted loudly. Be careful, the treasure isn't so easy to obtain. With our strength, the possibility of dying here is very high. A youth with a cold expression reminded them softly. Who is it? Just as they were talking, A 2-meter-tall creature holding a fork with a cold expression suddenly swam over and warned them. Oh, what creature? So weak. What is it saying? More than 10 people stared at the strange aquatic creature in front of them in surprise. Activate the voice of the soul. The cold-looking young man reminded them. The hearts of the surrounding people were stirred as a glimmer of light flashed across their eyes. We are from the Transcendence Continent, the Radiant Saint Mercenary Group. What is this place? The cold-looking young man stared at the strange creature in front of him with a twinkle in his eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, more and more of these strange creatures came over. These creatures were naturally the Yikshaws. This place was the entrance to the extraordinary world. Wang Xian had sent over a dozen Yikshaws to patrol this place. Over a dozen Yikshaws were all immortals. The extraordinary world? When the Yikshaws heard their words, they were slightly shocked. The civil officials in the Dragon Palace had told them some things about the extraordinary world. Naturally, they knew about it. The Yikshaws didn't expect that the other party was actually from the extraordinary continent, and their eyes were full of vigilance. They should be just some small water tribe. Kill them. After all, we are outsiders and the water area is under the control of the dragon tribe. They are not very friendly to us humans. A middle-aged man among the dozen or so people suddenly said. The surrounding people hesitated slightly, and the middle-aged man in the middle hesitated for a moment. We'll talk after we extract a confession, he said with a wave of his arm directly toward the Yikshaw to grab. Chapter 864. Chapter 864, Holy Glory Empire. What a tough mouth. They can't get any useful information out of us. They're not strong and tough-mouthed. They all committed suicide. Soon everyone frowned. They looked a little embarrassed as they looked at the corpses of more than a dozen creatures. Let's go. We'll explore on our own. Be careful. The young man with a gloomy face raised his head and looked at the sky. This place isn't very deep. Let's go out and take a look first. The group of people moved and flew into the sky. However, at this moment, Wang Xian didn't know that there were already people from the supernatural continent who had entered Earth by chance. There were more than a dozen of them. Each of them had extraordinary strength. With their strength, they were able to set off a huge storm across the entire Earth. Dragon King, more than a dozen Yikshaws patrolling the sea at the entrance to the supernatural continent have been killed. The next day in the Dragon King's palace, Prime Minister Gui and Ao Yikshaw suddenly came to report. What happened? Wang Xian was looking at the sketch of the underwater city. He raised his head in astonishment and asked. According to the injuries on the Yikshaws, they were subdued with one move. There are a lot of injuries on their bodies. They should be interrogated. More than a dozen Yikshaws were the same. The strength of the other party should have reached the supernatural realm. Prime Minister Gui said with a slight frown. There should not be too many people on Earth who had reached the extraordinary realm. Only 2 years had passed since the spiritual energy impact. There were absolutely no more than 3 people who had the opportunity to enter the extraordinary realm, except for the members of the Dragon Palace. However, even now, there were only 14 extraordinary people in the Dragon Palace. This was even after including Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, Elder Fan, Sun Lingxiu, and Ajia. Other than them, Ao Yao, Prime Minister Gui, Ao Qitian, Ao Qi, Ao Nu, Ao Shrimp, Ao Crab, plus him Bachi and Kuan, there were a total of 14 transcendents. It was not so easy to reach the transcendence realm. It would take at least 2 to 3 years for more transcendents to flood into the Dragon Palace. Currently, there were many celestial beings in the Dragon Palace. There were 600 of them. He was easily killed at the entrance of the Transcendence Continent and was even interrogated. Wang Xian's eyes flickered as he slowly turned solemn. A faint sense of danger was transmitted to him. Could it be? He shook his head. It would be terrible if the experts from the Transcendence Continent really came to Earth. With his current strength, he should be able to fight against an existence at level 3 or 4 of the supernatural realm. If he was stronger, it would be difficult to deal with him. Not to mention such a terrifying existence at the insightful Void Realm. He could kill him with one hand. Mobilize the forces of the Dragon Palace to investigate the ocean. Then pay close attention to the matters on the continent. Wang Xian said with a solemn face. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui nodded his head. He knew the seriousness of this matter. If it was really an expert from the supernatural continent, the small earth would not be enough for them to deal with. I hope nothing bad will happen, Wang Xian thought to himself. As it was an expert from the supernatural continent who had come to Earth, Wang Xian felt a sense of urgency. In the next few days he began to focus on his cultivation. Now that he had gathered the 5 elemental dragon beads, the fire dragon bead, water dragon bead, and wood dragon bead had reached the level of level 1 of the supernatural realm. He still needed 60 dragon crystals to reach level 2 of the supernatural realm. 7 days later, Prime Minister Gui sent a piece of bad news. The Western Divine Realm had been unified. The ancient god has returned. He has subdued all the divine realms, unified the West and established the Sacred Glory Empire. When Prime Minister Gui told Wang Xian about this news, he was stunned for a moment. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. The ancient gods have returned. Yes. Prime Minister Gui nodded his head. According to the news that the strange demon received from the West, more than 10 ancient gods have returned. They have swept across the entire West with endless divine might. Just their imposing manner alone cannot hold them back. More than 10 ancient gods have established the Sacred Glory Empire to unify the entire Earth. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. More than 10 ancient gods had established the Sacred Glory Empire to unify the Earth. Now, Wang Xian could basically confirm that these people were the powerhouses from the supernatural continent. As for the ancient gods? If you seek those powerhouses from the supernatural continent were really interesting. They called themselves the ancient gods. This operation was really impressive. According to our analysis, the strength of this group of people is definitely not too strong. However, they have also reached the supernatural realm. We might not be their match. Prime Minister Gui analyzed. Is that so? Wang Xian revealed a contemplative look. If the strength of this group of people had reached the level of 8 or 9 supernatural realm, or even the level of insight void, there was no need for them to say that they were the ancient gods. They had directly suppressed and swept across the entire Earth. Now, they were actually pretending to be the ancient gods. They were really good at it. However, since they had not seen their true strength, they could not make a blind judgment. Even if they were not super powerhouses, their strength was not something that the Dragon Palace could easily deal with. Investigate their strength. After figuring out their strength, we will look for ways to deal with them. Wang Xian immediately said to Prime Minister Gui. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui nodded his head. An expert from the Transcendental Continent. This is the first time I have come into contact with someone from the Transcendental Continent. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Feng Yuan was not considered an expert from the Transcendental Continent because she had been dead for many years. If they were not very strong, they would be able to obtain a lot of information from this group of people. Another 3 days passed. The Holy Glory Empire was established in the West. Its terrifying power made everyone tremble. Buzz, buzz. At this moment, a special sound came from the Dragon Palace. Following that, an extremely bright light flashed across the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian was slightly stunned. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. With a move of his body, he instantly arrived at the location of the dragon pool. The cultivation is complete. Wang Xian's eyes were fixed on the spot below him. His eyes were sparkling. At the spot below, the body of the Ao Yao did not change much. However, its 2 arms had changed from the sharp claws to a claw and a sickle. The claws were like white aurora while the sickle was like a condensed white light. It did not look like a real life form. In fact, even the entire body of the strange demon did not seem to be real. It was like an illusory light. It seemed to be formed from a ball of white light. Ao Yao Yao stood up slowly and looked at Wang Xian. Dragon King. His voice rang out. Following that, Wang Xian saw his figure appearing in front of him. Such terrifying speed. It was as though he had penetrated through the rock wall of the dragon cave and appeared beside him. His body penetrated through the rock wall. Such incredible speed. Wang Xian stared at Ao Yao and thought of something. Light Spike, Divine Dragon Transformation of Light, Level 1 Transcendence. Walking in the Light Walker, the assassin during the day. Information about Ao Yao appeared in his mind. Chapter 865. Chapter 865, wanted the Dragon King to be his mount. Ao Yao, what's the difference between the current you and the past? Wang Xian stared at Ao Yao with a twinkle in his eyes. Other than the changes in his appearance, there would definitely be other changes as a light spike. Turn into light, Dragon King. The past me was material. But now, under the sunlight, I can temporarily enter a state of nothingness. I can maintain this state for 1 second. Furthermore, when I fight, my body is already in a state of concealment. As Ao Yao spoke, his body directly concealed itself in the void. His arm moved and a ray of light attacked the ground. When he attacked, his figure was still in a state of concealment. In the past, once the strange demon launched an attack, its figure would be exposed. But now there was no such problem at all. Even when attacking, it would conceal its figure. This was very terrifying. However, in a battle, hiding is not perfect. If the opponent is of the dark attribute and is emitting demonic aura, it will make me appear. The other attributes can also see my body clearly. When entering the state of nothingness, there is another supernatural ability, light penetration. It can penetrate and in an instant, it can obtain a terrifying penetrating power. It can almost ignore the defense. Ao Yao continued to speak to Wang Xian. It's so abnormal? Wang Xian revealed a shocked expression. An extraordinaire meant that he had mastered a supernatural ability. Usually, an extraordinaire who had just entered the state of extraordinaire would only be able to master one supernatural ability. Ao Yao in the form of a strange demon had the ability of penetration. Compared to the penetration of light, there was still a huge gap between this ability and the penetration of light. In addition, there was the state of nothingness. The most abnormal supernatural ability should be the state of nothingness. At the instant of the assassination, if the opponent was alerted and counterattacked, the strange demon could enter the void state and directly ignore the opponent's attack to carry out a second, even more terrifying assassination. The Ao Yao is already so powerful even though it is only in its incomplete form. If it has reached its complete form, wouldn't it be even more perverse? Wang Xian looked at the Ao Yao and exclaimed in his heart. Even for him, if he were to face an assassination attempt by Ao Yao, his life would be in danger. However, once he was prepared, Ao Yao would definitely not be his opponent. He had just stepped into the first level of transcendence and already possessed 8 supernatural powers. Now that Wang Xian was fighting, he did not know how strong he would be. Haha, this is really rare. I didn't expect that there would be experts of the transcendence level in such a small space on Earth. However, they are still too weak. At this moment, at the border of Wuxia, 2 middle-aged men and young men in luxurious armor stood in the air and laughed as they looked down at everyone in front of them. I, the ancient emperor of the Sacred Glory Empire, hereby remind you that in 2 days, we will conquer this land in front of us. All the immortal sects will submit to us. Anyone who dares to resist will be killed. The middle-aged man swept his gaze across everyone in front of him. His body was emitting a terrifying aura as golden long swords spiraled above his head. Under his feet, a golden hexagram disc was rotating. He was clad in battle armor and looked just like an ancient god. In front of him, the Grand Elder of the Xianyuan clan was supporting a white-haired elder. At this moment, the white-haired elder was spitting out blood. His face was extremely pale and his eyes were filled with fear. Apart from them, there were also a group of immortal gods from the immortal sections. They looked at the 2 experts in front of them with terrified expressions. In 2 days we will descend onto your land. At that time we will kneel here to welcome our arrival. Ah. Also, I heard that there is a dragon king in your China who can transform into a divine dragon. Tell him to come over and become our mount. Ah. The 2 laughed maniacally once again. Their bodies moved as they flew towards the west at a terrifying speed. So strong, so strong. In front of them we are like ants. At the wild beast immortal gate, a golden lion spoke in human language. He looked at the 2 disappearing figures with a face full of fear. Old Xuanyuan's strength is already comparable to the godly king back then, but he was defeated in one move. As he spoke, his body trembled slightly, and his voice was filled with powerlessness. The surrounding immortal god's eyes were also filled with intense fear. In one move, he had defeated the supreme expert of the Xianyuan clan who had never appeared. This supreme expert of the Xianyuan clan possessed strength that was not weaker than the godly king, yet he was defeated so easily. He was so powerful that he was undefeatable. What should we do? Do we really have to be their subjects? Do we really have to listen to their commands and become their kings? The great Hong Immortal sect master said with an embarrassed expression. If he said it well, he would be a subject. If he said it badly, he would be a slave. He would listen to his master's words. It wasn't just them. Everyone in China had to be their slaves. How could they be satisfied with this? However, after seeing how powerful those two were, they had no way of resisting at all. It would be a piece of cake for them to kill their own people. He even dared to call the Dragon King to be their mount. I'm afraid. Everyone's faces were filled with despair. When the news of the return of the ancient gods from the west reached the east, the immortals and gods did not take it to heart. However, in just 10 days, that group of ancient gods had established the Sacred Glory Empire, shocking everyone in China. Establish an empire? This was simply calling themselves kings and enslaving all living beings. What made the immortal gods in China even more fearful was the strength of this group of ancient gods. Today, 2 ancient gods had directly arrived. The Xianyuan clan's experts, who were comparable to godly kings, had come out of the mountains, but they had been defeated in one move. Their powerful strength made them feel powerless. I never thought that one day I would actually have to submit to others. An immortal god's face was filled with bitterness. He had just become an immortal god and had become a slave. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. Let's find the Dragon King. The Dragon King should have some ideas. An immortal god hesitated for a moment before speaking. The Dragon King? An immortal god from the wild beast immortal sect shook his head bitterly. The other party obviously knows the Dragon King's strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to say that the Dragon King would be their mount. The Dragon King hasn't made a move. When the Dragon Palace destroyed the Nordic God King, the Dragon King didn't make a move either. Just one of his subordinates killed the God King effortlessly. The Dragon King's strength must be even stronger. Maybe. Feng Ling Tian from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect said. There are 12 gods who have returned from the ancient times. Only 2 of them came today. Obviously, they are not the strongest among them. A middle-aged immortal god interrupted Feng Ling Tian and said with an embarrassed expression. Feng Ling Tian pursed his lips and fell silent. He knew that the Dragon King was invincible, but, after all, the other party was an ancient god. One person could destroy the entire Wuxia immortal sect. Could his future brother-in-law do it? Everyone was silent. Dragon King? Sigh, submit. At this moment, the heavily injured elder of the Xianyuan clan sighed heavily and said in despair. When the surrounding immortals heard this, their faces were filled with despair. Chapter 866. Chapter 866. Wanted the Dragon King to be the mount. Want the Dragon King to be the mount. All the immortal sects will submit and become subjects. The Sacred Glory Empire will unify the earth. Just 2 sacred kings of the Sacred Glory Empire came and defeated the hidden experts of the Xianyuan clan, who were comparable to the godly kings, in one move. There are a total of 12 sacred kings. There is no way to guard against them. In the future we will become subjects of the Sacred Glory Empire. It is possible that we will enter an ancient slave country and worship the 12 sacred kings. No, the empire belongs to the power system. At that time we will live like dogs. The arrival of the 2 ancient gods of the Sacred Glory Empire shocked the entire Eastern world and all the immortal sections. When the people received the results, their faces were filled with fear. Ruled by the Sacred Glory Empire? This was completely equivalent to returning to the ancient times. The ruler was greater than the heavens, and when the emperor was angry, blood would flow for thousands of miles. They would lose their human rights and their freedom. The 12 ancient gods would be their masters. If they wanted them to live, they could live. If they wanted them to die, they would die. They would become the slaves of the empire. What should we do? The 12 ancient gods are too powerful. We don't have the ability to resist them at all. Even the Xianyuan clan can't do anything. They can only surrender in despair. What can we do? What about the Dragon King? The Dragon Palace is the strongest in the world, and the Dragon King is also an invincible existence. Can the Dragon King fight them? How is that possible? Even the Dragon King can't be their opponent. The experts of the Xianyuan clan who are comparable to the godly king were defeated in one move. Can the Dragon King do it? Everyone was in despair. The entire East was in complete chaos. Many forces were even prepared to surrender. If we submit in advance, we might be able to leave a good impression on the 12 holy kings. The holy kings might give their own immortal sects some power. The immortals from the Chaos Origin Immortal sect and a few other immortal sects were discussing. At this moment they had completely lost the will to resist. Brother. In the Dragon Palace, Xiao Yu walked in hurriedly and shouted at Wang Xian anxiously. I already know what you want to say. At this moment Wang Xian was sitting on the dragon throne. Beside him, Prime Minister Gue was reporting something. When he saw Xiao Yu rushing in from the outside, he waved at her. It's about the incident with the Holy Glory Empire, right? Yes, brother. Their strength is really strong. They actually want to make you. This was also the first time Xiao Yu felt anxious. The opponents who appeared this time were completely different from before. They were so strong that it made her panic. All of her beliefs came from her brother. Now she had no confidence. You want me to be their mount? Wang Xian added Xiao Yu's words with a smile. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Yes, brother. What should we do? Ling Qian's father and the people from the Shenyuan clan asked me to ask you if you have any way to deal with them. If you don't, you can only submit. Xiao Yu frowned and said with an ugly expression. Wang Xian nodded slowly. I'm not sure. Not sure? Brother, are you saying that it's still possible? Xiao Yu was slightly taken aback as she exclaimed in surprise. You said that if you were to cultivate properly, you would be able to deal with at least one of the two people who went to Wuxia today. Wang Xian patted Xiao Yu's head. In the past year, Xiao Yu had been fishing for fish for 3 days and basking in the net for 2 days in her cultivation. Even Elder Fan had reached Transcendence Level 1, and she was still a superior immortal. If she broke through to the first level of Transcendence, she would have no problem fighting against the 2 experts at the second level of Transcendence. Xiao Yu stuck out her tongue. How strong are they? The 2 people who went to Wuxia today are at the second level of Transcendence. Your sister-in-law and the rest will be able to handle them. Wang Xian spoke directly to Xiao Yu and frowned slightly. There are still 10 people left. I wonder how strong they will be. Then what should we do? Xiao Yu's expression was a little grave. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, we can't avoid it. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. The 12 ancient gods had established the Sacred Glory Empire and called themselves the 12 Sacred Kings. From the way they were addressed, the difference in strength between them shouldn't be too big. If it was really too big, they wouldn't all be addressed as the 12 Sacred Kings. They might be a Sacred Emperor, but in the Sacred Emperor, Sacred Kings and the like. There was at least a clear distinction between their levels. If they didn't, their strength shouldn't be too big. In fact, their strength was between the 2nd to 4th or even the 5th level of the Transcendence. The first sky of the first level of the Transcendence had a huge difference in strength. It was very easy for a second level to kill a first level. An equal title meant that the difference might not be too great. However, this was just a guess. If it was really as he had guessed. The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. If that was the case, he could capture the 12 ancient gods and 12 holy kings and interrogate them about the extraordinary continent. If that was the case, their arrival would be a good thing. Brother, 2 days later, they want all the experts from the immortal sects to gather at the seaside and wait for their arrival. They want their king. Xiao Yu said to Wang Xian, they want the people from the Dragon Palace to wait for them there too. Wait for their king? The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. We'll go and take a look then. Dragon King, the only ones in the Dragon Palace who can kill a level 2 extraordinary are Ao Yao Yao, Kuan, the Blue-Green Moon Dragon Queen, Sun Lingshu Dragon Queen, and you Dragon King. If they really fight, it will be a huge battle. Prime Minister Gui said with a solemn expression. Wang Xian stood up slowly and nodded his head heavily. His face was filled with fighting spirit. Yes, I also want to see how strong I am at the moment. Get ready. We'll head there the morning after tomorrow. Wang Xian looked ahead and said slowly. Prime Minister Gue nodded his head. The members of the Dragon Palace who had entered the Transcendence Realm were able to fight against those at the second level of the Transcendence Realm. However, it was very difficult to kill them. The battle 2 days later would mainly depend on the Dragon King, Guangxi, Lan Qingyue, and Kuan. 2 days passed very quickly. These 2 days were a great torment to the entire East. The internet was filled with unwillingness and anger. The immortal sects were in despair and were ready to submit. 2 days later, in the early morning at the huge dock by the East Sea, more than 100,000 people had gathered there as soon as the sky lit up. They were all people from the various immortal sects, and none of them had fallen. All the experts and immortal gods stood at the dock and looked toward the west, waiting for the arrival of the 12 sacred kings. Everyone's mood was a little heavy as they were worried about their lives. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Wang Xian flew over with a group of experts from the Dragon Palace. Hiss, the Dragon King is here too. The Dragon King is also coming over to submit. Chapter 867. Chapter 867, The Final Battle. When all the immortal gods and disciples of the immortal sects saw Wang Xian leading a group of experts from the Dragon Palace, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Thinking back to a year ago when the Dragon King wiped out the Northern European Divine Territory and the Yuan clan, he didn't take action personally. However, when he met this ancient god, he had to submit to the 12 sacred kings. Even someone as powerful as the Dragon King had to submit to him, let alone us. The 12 holy kings wanted the Dragon King to be their mount. Let the strongest among us be their mount. When everyone saw the arrival of the Dragon King, a look of shock appeared on their faces. Dragon King. Dragon King. When they saw Wang Xian and the rest arrive, everyone at the front opened up a space and shouted with a hint of misery on their faces. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly and landed on the ground. He looked towards the west. Ichimsh, you're going to be someone else's mount in the future, yet you're still so cold and arrogant. Behind them, a new immortal from the Hunyuan immortal sect curled his lips slightly when he saw Wang Xian's cold and arrogant look. He said with disdain on his face. The Hunyuan immortal sect had a grudge with the Dragon Palace. Back then, the experts from the Dragon sect blocked their city gates, causing them to not dare to leave the city for 3 days. However, the Dragon King was too powerful, so they dared not speak out in anger. Now that they saw the Dragon King become someone else's mount, he muttered in a low voice, full of schadenfreude. His voice was very soft, but the surrounding immortals and deities could not hide it from anyone's ears. Boss. Just as he finished speaking, Prime Minister Turtle, who was standing at the side, turned around and waved the turtle shell in his hand. The 12 sacred kings will be here soon. Dragon King you. The immortal god's expression changed drastically. However, before he could finish speaking, a terrifying suction force came from the turtle shell. Bang! The immortal god didn't have the slightest strength to resist. He was directly sucked into the turtle shell and his head was separated. Bang! Prime Minister Gue casually threw the immortal god's body into the ocean. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. He is really courting death. Exactly. Even if the Dragon King is reduced to a mount, you are not qualified to mock him. How can such a fool advance to the immortal god level? Some people whispered. The Dragon King must be in a bad mood now. He was simply courting death by ridiculing him now. Haha, you really know what's good for you. Immortals of the East, your king is here. At this moment, a loud roar was heard. Everyone's expression changed slightly as they hurriedly looked towards the west. In the western sky, there were 12 middle-aged youths sitting on the divine seats, with 12 terrifying giant beasts pulling at them. At the back, a group of Western gods followed behind, their eyes filled with respect. An old man stood at the leftmost position. He was the one who had spoken just now. The old man was dressed in divine armor and had an extraordinary aura. He was the leader of a god domain, yet he was now accompanying them like a eunuch. Your king is here. The group of people moved very quickly. A few hundred immortal gods followed behind. This aura was soul-shaking. Transcendence level 2, level 3, level 2, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 3. Wang Xian swept his gaze over and a smile slowly appeared on his face. There was only one person who was at the strongest Transcendence level 4. The rest were at the weakest Transcendence level 2. Hiss, these Saint Kings look so young. Although they didn't emit any aura looking at them, there is a kind of pressure that comes from the soul. Everyone looked over with shocked expressions. Roar! The 12 10-meter-long beasts stopped and roared. The 12 sacred kings lined up and looked at them. Their eyes were filled with mockery and pride. They were just a small mercenary group on the extraordinary continent, but they didn't expect to be the strongest existences in this world. This made all of them look excited. They decided not to go back and do something big here. Build an empire and become a king. They were the masters of this place. They wanted women and the most beautiful women. They wanted power. They were the kings of everyone. In this place they were the heavens. The eyes of the 12 people swept across the hundreds of thousands of people below. They looked satisfied. Tiske, there are quite a number of beautiful women. A lewd expression flashed across the eyes of a youth sitting on the left divine seat. He stood up excitedly and looked down. The rest of the people were also used to his behavior. Have all the immortal sects arrived? At this moment, a shady youth sitting in the middle asked a question. Reporting to the sage king, all the experts from the celestial sect have arrived. An immortal replied hurriedly. Which one is the Dragon King? The shady-looking young man raised his head slightly and asked with disdain. At the bottom of the hall, everyone's gaze landed on Wang Xian and the rest who were at the front. Oh, you are the Dragon King? A hint of surprise flashed across the shady-looking young man's eyes. His gaze landed on Wang Xian as well. Yes. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. These beauties are pretty. When the young man with lewd eyes on the left saw Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu and teacher Fan Zhang who were beside Wang Xian, his eyes lit up. The three of them were definitely the best in terms of temperament and looks. Even in the Transcendence continent, they were considered to be peerless beauties. Empress Feng Luan's appearance was only slightly better than the few of them. The corners of the young man's mouth curled up slightly as he licked his lips. Everyone below saw this scene and their expressions changed slightly. This Dragon King doesn't just want to become a mount, he might even toy with his own woman. Some people thought to themselves. The glorious Dragon King had fallen to this scene, which was something no one had expected. Transform into a divine dragon and let the Holy King see it. Also, everyone else, kneel down and worship. The old man on the left shouted loudly with a cold gaze. Everyone's expression changed slightly. However, their expressions soon relaxed as they slowly knelt on the ground. Ha! Suddenly the old man snorted softly. His gaze was fixed on Wang Xian and the rest who were at the front. The 12 Saint Kings also looked at Wang Xian and the rest with a hint of coldness in their eyes. Kneel down, didn't you hear me? And you, Dragon King, anyone who dares to disobey the orders of the Saint Kings will be implicated. The old man exuded a terrifying pressure and surged toward the area below. Kiki, how dare you resist us? Interesting, kill all the men and the women. The young man with lewd eyes licked his lips once again. Whoosh. However, this time before he could finish his sentence, the space trembled slightly. A white light flashed and a head flew into the sky. A bunch of guys with the highest cultivation level at the 4th level of transcendence. They still dare to claim that they are ancient gods and sacred kings to establish an empire. Ah, how interesting. At the same time, a faint smile appeared on Wang Xian's face as his mocking voice rang out. Chapter 868. Chapter 868, Suppress the World. A mocking voice sounded, causing all the immortals and gods kneeling on the ground to reveal shocked expressions. Just now, when the Dragon King and the others didn't kneel down, everyone was a little stunned. Hearing this mocking voice again, all the immortals and disciples of the immortal sects were even more shocked. Even the gods in the sky in front of them were slightly stunned. The highest level was Transcendent Level 4. What did this mean? Look, that's... At this moment, everyone suddenly saw the head and body of the obscene Saint King who was standing on the left side falling down. The bright red blood splashed onto the ocean, causing everyone's pupils to shrink. Saint King, this was a Saint King, an ancient god who had returned, yet he was instantly killed. In the air, there was only a faint flash of light before he died. Instant kill, instant kill. The air froze instantly. Boom, boom, boom. The faces of the sage kings who were seated on the divine seats changed drastically. They were shocked by Wang Xian's taunting words and their comrades who were instantly killed. What the fuck? A terrifying aura burst out from everyone's bodies. They scanned their surroundings with a solemn expression and stared at Wang Xian with an embarrassed expression. Just now, he said that the highest level of transcendence was at level 4 with a hint of mockery. This made all of them look embarrassed. How did he know that the highest level of transcendence among them was at level 4? Furthermore, he was so unscrupulous. Oh, who are you? In the middle, a middle-aged man with a beard looked at the corpse that had fallen into the sea. His eyes were solemn as he stared at Wang Xian vigilantly. Haha, interesting, how interesting. Now you're asking me who I am? Let me tell you, Dragon King of the Dragon Palace, none of you can leave today. Wang Xian laughed out loud. His body shook and he transformed into a divine dragon. At this moment, a huge wave rose from the bottom of the sea. A monster that was nearly 400 meters in size flew into the sky from the sea. Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu, Elder Fan, and Prime Minister Gui followed closely behind and surrounded them in front of them. Stunned. The hundreds of thousands of immortal gods and disciples below watched this scene in shock. The returning ancient god, the sacred king who had swept across the western divine realm and established the sacred glory empire in an invincible manner, was now surrounded by the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace and the others. However, they were still kneeling on the ground, wanting to worship their future king and become his subjects. This was simply, everyone was dumbfounded. The other 11 so-called sacred kings standing in front of the divine throne had ugly expressions on their faces. They glanced at the group of people who had surrounded them, and their expressions were extremely ugly. Being exposed made them angry from embarrassment, and they were extremely angry. The death of a comrade made them even more fearful. If you don't want to die, then surrender. Wang Xian didn't give them any time. He let out a low growl and his eyes were flickering with flames. Endless eyes, fight. He let out a loud growl that was filled with fighting spirit. The two flames in his eyes were directed at the middle-aged man in the middle. He was the only transcendent level 4 existence and was also the strongest among them. Damn it, kill him. When the middle-aged man heard that Wang Xian wanted them to surrender, his expression turned extremely ugly. He let out a loud roar and a huge golden saber appeared in his hand. He waved his arm and a terrifying golden radiance slashed towards Wang Xian. Boom! The golden radiance collided with the boundless vision. Two terrifying flames actually started to burn on the golden radiance and melted rapidly. What? Divine ability. The middle-aged man's expression changed slightly. A solemn expression appeared on his face. Saber rage. His expression changed slightly. He raised his long saber and the 10,000-meter long saber radiance instantly condensed and slashed towards Wang Xian. Golden void rend. Wang Xian's expression didn't change at all. His golden dragon claw emitted a dazzling golden radiance. The golden radiance was like a thread as it directly met the 10,000-meter long saber radiance. Bzzzt. It sounded like the sound of space being torn apart. The metal attribute divine ability, golden space splitting, instantly cut the saber glow in half and attacked the middle-aged man. The second divine ability. Divine abilities were the strongest means of an extraordinary powerhouse. Normally, only at the last moment would one unleash a divine ability to kill. However, the Dragon King attacked with two divine abilities right from the start. It was a first-level divine ability. His Saber Fury was a divine ability that he had comprehended when he entered the first level. When he saw that his first divine ability was cut off, his expression changed slightly. Fury Wave. The saber radiance was like a wave as it slashed towards the gold-splitting void continuously. But when the two divine abilities collided, it was as though there was only the sound of metal between the heavenly sounds. It was exceptionally ear-piercing. Continue, burn the river and boil the sea. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with excitement. This was the first time he had such an enjoyable battle. Damn, another divine ability. How did he have so many attributes? The middle-aged man saw that the terrifying sea of fire was condensed to 4 to 5 kilometers. The terrifying flames were like a volcano that appeared out of thin air. His face revealed an embarrassed expression. Blade attack. The blade in his hand circled around and formed a golden metal space that completely protected it. The flames could not enter his body at all. Roar. Wang Xian let out an angry roar and charged forward. Dragons were not only powerful in their innate abilities, but also in their physical bodies. Fight. The middle-aged man's face was filled with murderous intent. He held the long blade in his hand and slashed at Wang Xian. You beast, let me kill you. At this moment, a huge battle broke out at the side. Two so-called holy kings were attacking the Kuan. The Kuan's entire body was gray and its size was abnormally terrifying. Even though they had come from the supernatural realm, it was rare to see such a huge creature. However, although this huge creature was huge, it looked extremely clumsy. Its entire body was black, and its huge mouth was filled with countless sharp teeth. However, they did not show the slightest fear. A middle-aged man holding a long axe and a young man holding a long sword slashed towards Kuan. The long sword was emitting blue lightning rays. The lightning rays were corporeal and with crackling sounds, it reached 100 meters long. The incomparable lightning rays slashed towards Kuan. However, Kuan acted as if he didn't see it. He moved his body and crashed into Kuan. "You're courting death." The middle-aged youth holding the giant axe and long sword had a look of disdain in his eyes. When their attacks landed on Kuan's body, a 10-meter-long wound instantly appeared. Their bodies moved, wanting to land on Kuan's body. However, at the instant they ended their battle with Kuan, an unparalleled and terrifying collision came. In a Kuan's battle, they only relied on close combat. They only had one talent, which was to condense their strength. Their entire body strength could condense into a single point. Imagine a Kuan that was close to 400 meters long. With the strength that erupted from its body, how terrifying would it be when it condensed into the size of a fist? Boom! Like a comet crashing into Earth, the middle-aged man and the young man's expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with fear. Pooh! The young man instantly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was sent flying far away. Suppression. Instant suppression. Whether it was the immortal gods and disciples of the Eastern Immortal Sect or the gods of the Western Divine Realm, all of them were dumbstruck, and their faces were filled with shock. Chapter 869. Chapter 869, Suppressed the Entire World. This. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. The Dragon Palace had completely suppressed the 12 sacred kings and 12 ancient gods in just a short moment of battle. They sat proudly on their divine thrones and came here accompanied by a group of Western gods. They even clamored for the Dragon King to be their mounts. However, at this moment the 12 people were completely suppressed. Whether it was the middle-aged man who was fighting with the Dragon King, or the youth and middle-aged man who were fighting with the terrifying beast of the Dragon Palace, they were completely suppressed. The group of immortal gods and disciples knelt on the ground, watching the battle that broke out in an instant, their faces changing violently. They knelt here waiting for their king to arrive. In the end, their king had arrived. Now he was fighting with the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace and was clearly at a disadvantage. Just a moment ago, they had thought that the Dragon King would become a mount and be very miserable. Now, the one who was miserable was themselves. How can he be so strong? How is this possible? The young man who was sent flying by the terrifying force when he collided with the Kuan widened his eyes and revealed an incredulous expression. The middle-aged man beside him also felt his blood boiling and his face turned red. The young man was at Transcendent Level Rank 2 while the middle-aged man was at Transcendent Level Rank 3. Yet he was sent flying by a huge monster. How terrifying was this power? The middle-aged man's attack landed on the monster's body and left a 10-meter deep wound. However, this 1-meter deep and 10-meter long wound appeared without any blood. At this moment, the wound was slowly healing. The young man's attack was even weaker, leaving only a 5 to 6 meter long and half-meter deep mark. At this moment, the mark had basically healed and it was exactly the same as before. Terrifying recovery ability, terrifying strength. What kind of monster is this? The two of them could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva, their expressions extremely ugly. They had entered this world and easily defeated the so-called gods of this world, establishing the Holy Glory Empire, preparing to live like an emperor in the future. However, they did not expect to encounter such a terrifying group of people. Eat my stick. At the side, a 10-meter-long demonic monkey held a 10-meter-long rod in its hand, emitting a monstrous demonic flame as it surrounded a Type 2 transcendent companion. There were also a few beautiful girls. The terrifying flames seemed to be endless as they continued to be released. One after another, a level 2 transcendent companion could only passively defend. Otherwise, they would be drowned in the sea of flames. There was also the terrifying light. The female student was like a goddess of light, emitting endless light. The light covered a radius of a few kilometers, and anyone who entered would be suppressed by the light. These two perverse female students, their strength seemed to be at most at level 1, but their attacks were too perverse. This was the first time they saw a person being able to continuously unleash all sorts of attacks. Other than the girl of fire and light, the gray woman was even more abnormal. They had no idea what attribute the strange gray energy was. Once their bodies were touched by the gray energy, their bodies would stiffen as if they were corpses. The rank 3 transcendent team leader, who was fighting against the gray energy, faced the unknown energy with a serious expression. Each of these 10 people were extraordinary. Not to mention, there was also an assassin who had assassinated one of their comrades from the start. This was the most terrifying assassin they had ever seen. With just a flash of light, one of their rank 3 transcendent comrades was instantly killed. Everyone was on guard against the white shadow that flashed past. Water crisis exploding city. At this moment, a cold shout rang out once again. It was terrifying again. Wang Xian's body spiraled as he swung his golden sharp claws at the middle-aged man. Every time he swung his claws, there was a terrifying golden glow. However, the middle-aged man was at transcendent level rank 4 after all. Every attack of his was extremely terrifying. The blade in his hand was also extraordinary as it clashed violently with the dragon claws. Every time they collided, sparks and golden light spread around. The entire sky was filled with flames and golden rays. The stalemate lasted for a full 2 minutes. Wang Xian did not gain the upper hand at all. His entire body trembled as he activated his 4th supernatural ability. Water Hazard Explosion City. Water Hazard Explosion City was a water attribute supernatural ability. This Water Hazard Explosion City was boiling water that emitted a terrifyingly high temperature. The moment Wang Xian released the Water Hazard Explosion City, the seawater below seethed and 1,000,000 tons of seawater rose directly into the sky. The burning river boiling sea instantly turned the entire seawater extremely red. The temperature of the water became even more terrifying under the Water Hazard Explosion City. Between the divine abilities, they could be stacked and amplified. The Water Hazard Explosion City's offensive power could be amplified by the Water Hazard Explosion City's divine ability. The sea water that was emitting flames moved Wang Xian's tail and flung it directly at the middle-aged man. The 4th divine ability? Water attribute? The middle-aged man's expression was extremely ugly. Divine abilities were originally considered as a trump card. Now the opponent had released 4 of them not long after the battle started. Furthermore, each attribute was different. Divine abilities could not be released casually. If one wanted to release a second divine ability, one had to at least recuperate. For the same divine ability, it would take at least half an hour before it could be released again. This divine ability is much stronger than the previous 3. Because of the burning river boiling sea divine ability, this divine ability made the middle-aged man's expression slightly awkward. Roar, you forced me. The middle-aged man roared, Heavenly Blade. Heavenly Blade. Clang. With a roar, it was as if the sky had made a huge response. A blade directly fell from the sky. Sky blade was only 20 meters in size, but it was emitting an extremely bright light. Sky blade was above the middle-aged man's head, and a golden light connected with Sky blade. The middle-aged man waved his arm, and Sky blade directly slashed towards the water crisis exploding city in front of him. Boom boom boom. The middle-aged man stood where he was and controlled the Sky blade to attack one after another. The Sky blade followed the movements of his hands and unleashed terrifying attacks. Cold sweat appeared on the middle-aged man's forehead. It was obvious that controlling the Sky blade was very taxing on him. This was a divine ability that he had comprehended after advancing to the 4th level of transcendence. Its power was incomparably powerful. Divine abilities were also divided into strong and weak ones. The Sky blade belonged to the highest level. With a single slash, the water crisis city was directly split into 2. With the second slash, the water flow was once again split apart. When the strength of the sword was strong enough, a single slash could cut through a waterfall. What a powerful saber art! Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. With a loud roar, his dragon claw charged straight at the heaven's saber. The dragon claw that was emitting a bright light expanded to more than 10 meters in size and collided heavily with the heaven's saber. Chapter 870. Chapter 870, suppressed him for the rest of his life. Boom. 2 terrifying forces collided. The 20-meter-long heavenly blade was almost the same size as Wang Xian's body. When the powerful forces collided, Wang Xian couldn't help but retreat backward. A long wound appeared on the dragon claw and fresh blood oozed out. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. He took a deep breath. He was at Transcendent Level 4. After all, he was at Transcendent Level 4. When the middle-aged man unleashed his full strength, it would be very difficult for him to deal with him. Haha, you are the one who forced me to do this. Today I will chop off your dragon head. When the middle-aged man saw Wang Xian taking a step back, wounds appeared on his dragon claws. A ferocious expression appeared on his face. He let out a loud roar and leaped forward. The long saber in his hand slashed towards Wang Xian with a force that could split a mountain. The heaven saber that was connected to him also rushed into the sky and slashed towards Wang Xian. The 20-meter-long heavenly blade slashed down heavily. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. At the position of his body, the earth-yellow energy circulated and layers of powerful defenses appeared in the sky above him. At the same time, Wang Xian opened his mouth and spat out 3 Dragon Balls. The Dragon Balls attacked the middle-aged man directly. Boom! The heavenly blade landed on the earth shield on Wang Xian's body. The earth shield cracked and soil splashed in all directions. The power of the long blade was greatly reduced. However, it still landed on Wang Xian's body. Boom! Wang Xian's body fell rapidly towards the bottom of the sea. He could not help but spit out large mouthfuls of dragon blood. What? When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were shocked. The Dragon King is going to lose? The middle-aged man is showing his power. The Dragon King may be in danger. At this moment, the faces of the people below changed drastically. The battle between the Dragon King and them just now had made the immortal gods and disciples of the immortal sect stand up. Now that they saw that the Dragon King was actually suppressed and might even be killed, the people were panicking. Should they kneel down again? The immortal gods, the lofty immortal sects, at this moment, were like ants that could be easily destroyed by others. This made all of them extremely embarrassed. The battle had reached its peak. Looking at their battle, all of the immortal gods felt extremely insignificant. That heaven saber is too terrifying. Maybe Wang Xian is not their match. The Dragon King is going to be finished. When everyone saw the Dragon King spitting out blood and falling into the sea, their expressions changed slightly. Boom. Ah, good. This is so satisfying. It's been a long time since anyone could hurt me. At this moment, a huge wave was stirred up on the surface of the sea. Wang Xian flew out from the bottom of the sea. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Damn you. Today I will definitely kill you. When the middle-aged man saw Wang Xian flying out from the bottom of the sea, his expression changed slightly. His face turned slightly pale. The continuous control of the heaven saber had exhausted him greatly. Ah, this is the last move. If you can take it, I admit defeat. Wang Xian laughed out loud. He wagged his tail and circled directly in the sky. Humph. The middle-aged man's expression did not change. The long blade in his hand sent the 3 Dragon Balls in front of him flying. He controlled the heavenly blade and slashed at Wang Xian. Every slash carried 100-meter sharp edge. Every slash looked extremely heavy. The tree world has descended. Wang Xian's body was emitting a green glow. The glow was like a seed as it slowly spread across a radius of 10 kilometers. Boom, 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 boom. In an instant, the entire world seemed to have undergone a huge change. The tree world had descended. The entire sky was directly covered by trees that were 100 meters tall. Every tree was 100 meters tall and 7 to 8 meters thick. They had long branches. Wang Xian's body trembled and transformed into the body of the Azure Dragon. Humph. The middle-aged man saw another supernatural ability and his eyebrows twitched violently. However, he snorted coldly. He realized that although the Dragon King had many supernatural abilities, none of them were as powerful as he had imagined. The supernatural ability that he had comprehended at extraordinary 4th level could completely destroy it. Heavenly Blade Raging Slash. With a loud roar, the long saber in his hand split into more than a dozen. The heavenly blade split into more than a dozen at the same time and slashed forward. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the newly formed tree world within a radius of 1,000 meters was directly chopped into pieces of wood. Humph, what an empty facade. A hint of coldness flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes as he slashed the long saber in his hand once again. It hasn't started yet. Wang Xian laid on top of a bunch of trees. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Spirit enchantment. Spirit enchantment. It was an ability of the ancestral tree. It allowed the trees to possess spirituality. When Wang Xian released this supernatural ability, the entire tree world seemed to have come to life. It was as if an ancient creature had come to life. In an instant, all the trees were exuding a terrifying life force. Wang Xian's body shook. A large amount of green dragon energy filled a radius of 10 kilometers. In an instant, all the trees seemed to have taken drugs. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Wang Xian had an idea. Countless trees attacked the sky blade and the middle-aged man. Petty tricks. A cold glint flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes. He raised the long blade in his hand and let out a dazzling light. The sky blade also let out a dazzling light. Slash. Slash. The sky blade's might covered 1,000 meters as it slashed towards the densely packed trees below. However, when the sky blade slashed over, the countless trees seemed to have eyes as they directly dodged the sky blade's attack. Moreover, the densely packed tree branches wrapped around the sky blade. What? How is this possible? Why are these trees so alive? The middle-aged man widened his eyes. Supernatural powers, any kind of supernatural powers, and the attacks unleashed would be under the control of the owner. However, these trees seemed to be alive as they attacked him crazily. Moreover, they could even dodge attacks. How was this possible? Because I have the ancestral tree, this should be my strongest move. The descent of the tree world with an additional spirit. A hint of a smile appeared in Wang Xian's eyes. He moved his body and in an instant, all the trees within a radius of 10 kilometers started to move along with him. The overwhelming number of tree branches headed towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with shock as he waved the long saber in his hand. However, he realized that the heaven saber in the sky was tightly entangled by countless branches. No matter how much strength he used, the heaven saber did not move at all. This made him extremely embarrassed. A hint of fear could be seen in his eyes. No. He looked ahead. The 20-meter-long green dragon was attacking him with countless branches. His face revealed an extremely terrified expression as he shouted loudly. Die. Wang Xian's eyes were ice-cold. The scales on his body trembled slightly as sharp wooden thorns appeared one after another and attacked the middle-aged man. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With the power of the entire tree world descending, Wang Xian and all the trees penetrated through the middle-aged man directly. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out and reverberated throughout the surrounding waters. The middle-aged man was injured. When this sound rang out, everyone in the surroundings trembled. The battle in the surroundings also stopped. Suppression. Chapter 871. Chapter 871. Invincible in the world. When the last scream was heard, the entire world fell silent. The battle in the surroundings stopped. Everyone looked at the tree world in shock. Roar. A roar was heard. The voice was filled with a domineering and invincible aura. Everyone took a deep breath and stared at the 5-colored divine dragon hovering in the sky in shock. The divine dragon's body moved and transformed into a human form. With a wave of his arm, a tree branch bound a body and extended to his side. Wang Xian stretched out his hand and held onto the middle-aged man's body. The middle-aged man was already dead. His gaze swept over and a strange glint flashed in his eyes. Supernatural ability Soul Catcher. Soul Catcher could absorb the souls of the dead. After absorption, it could be placed on the soul-returning wood and turned into a soul fruit to resurrect them. It could also absorb all the information in the souls and disappear into thin air. Wang Xian looked at the ocean as well. The soul that was killed at the first instance was also absorbed. He directly devoured the soul of the first young man that was killed. Waves of information surged into his mind, waiting for him to check it out. He raised his head and scanned his surroundings. In the sky, the other 10 people were in an extremely sorry state. They stood there in fear. They were just a small mercenary group on the transcendental continent. When they were on a mission, they were chased by undersea creatures in the ocean and accidentally came to Earth. They thought that they were invincible here, but they didn't expect that. Their leader was actually killed. The extraordinary 4th-rank leader, the most powerful existence among them, had been killed. With his strength he could deal with all of them alone, but now he was killed. Then what qualifications did they have to fight him? Moreover, even if the powerful Dragon King didn't make a move, it wouldn't be long before they were killed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. This made all of them feel a deep sense of despair. Their dream of becoming a king had been shattered. Their dream of standing at the top of this small world and holding the lives of thousands of people had been shattered. In fact, what awaited them next was death. Everyone's eyes were filled with despair and their expressions were extremely ugly. "Kneel down, I can spare your lives." Wang Xian's cold gaze swept across all of them as he shouted in a deep voice. In an instant, the remaining 10 people's expressions changed slightly. "Kneel down, let them kneel down." Just a moment ago, they were still seated on the divine seat and asked the other party to kneel down. However, in just over 10 minutes they were the ones who had to kneel down. The 10 people's expressions were extremely awkward. However, if they didn't kneel down, the only outcome awaiting them was death. This was asking them to surrender. "I surrender." The expression of the shady young man changed drastically. Finally he faced Wang Xian and knelt in the air. "I surrender too." When the rest saw the shady young man kneeling, they hesitated for a moment before kneeling on the ground. They were not some holy king or some ancient god. They were just a small mercenary group on the Transcendence continent. They did not have high status and did not have much pride. If they could survive by submitting, they would kneel down. For a moment, the remaining 10 people knelt in the air and faced Wang Xian. Hiss. Upon seeing this scene, be it the gods of the Western Divine Realm, the immortal gods and the disciples of the immortal sects, all of them were overwhelmed with shock. The so-called Holy King, the so-called ancient god, actually knelt down to the Dragon King and submitted completely. Just how powerful was the Dragon King? He was actually able to make a group of experts who had subdued the Western Divine Realm, established the Sacred Glory Empire, and even made the immortal sects and gods kneel down, submit to him directly. The Dragon King was invincible. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. There was shock, disbelief and disbelief in their eyes. There were all sorts of people. Dragon King invincible. Long live the Dragon King. At this moment, the faces of the immortals in the Western Divine Realm changed drastically. Following that, the immortals knelt in the air and shouted at Wang Xian. They had already submitted to the 12 people from the supernatural realm. Now that the Dragon King had subdued them, it was normal for them to submit to the Dragon King. Therefore, the immortals did not hesitate and knelt respectfully. Seeing this scene, the faces of the immortal gods and disciples of the Eastern Immortal sect changed dramatically and were filled with shock. 10 terrifying experts had submitted to the Dragon King, and now the gods of the Western Divine Realm had also submitted. Ah! At this moment, screams suddenly came from the center of the immortal sect. Dragon King invincible. Long live the Dragon King. Everyone was slightly shocked. They quickly looked over and their pupils couldn't help but shrink. The people of the Wild Beast Immortal sect killed all the immortal gods and disciples of the Chaos Origin Immortal sect directly. They respectfully knelt down on one knee towards the Dragon King in the sky like an ancient general. Dragon King invincible. Long live the Dragon King. Slowly, some of the sect leaders took the lead and bowed towards the Dragon King. Although they did not kneel down like the Western gods, it was more or less the same. It represented submission. Bang bang bang. Dragon King invincible. Long live the Dragon King. Everyone was not stingy with their knees. They landed heavily on the ground and shouted at Wang Xian loudly. One was invincible and the other was long live. As for the Hunyuan immortals, they were killed just because an immortal had offended the Dragon King. When one's strength had reached a certain level, there were times when the offender did not even need to be dealt with. Now the Dragon King had also achieved this step. Now with Wang Xian's strength, a single sentence from him could decide the life and death of tens of millions of people. Today's battle allowed everyone to truly witness the Dragon King's strength. Invincible in this world, able to suppress the rest of the world. In the future, all the martial artists on Earth would have to respectfully address him as the Dragon King. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surroundings and a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. He didn't have the intention of becoming the king and conqueror. All he needed to do was to occupy the ocean. Moreover, the mission of the Divine Dragon System was to occupy the ocean and become the Lord of the Oceans in the myriad realms. Get up. I have no intention of contending for hegemony and neither do I have the intention of becoming the king. In the future, the ocean will be the domain of my dragon palace. The water tribe will be the subjects of my Dragon King. Since you guys are occupying the mainland, I will not interfere in your matters. Wang Xian said faintly. His words made everyone feel a little happy. At the same time they heaved a sigh of relief. If the Dragon King wanted to establish an empire, then everyone had to obey him and address him as a king. The Dragon King occupied the ocean and did not interfere in matters on the mainland. On the contrary, it made them a little excited and grateful. In the future, if the Dragon King has any orders, we will follow your orders to the death. We will follow your orders to the death. Although the Dragon King did not establish a country and did not participate in land disputes, the Dragon King's strength was already a king in the hearts of everyone. They did not dare to disobey the king's words. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.